Hello everyone, welcome to a new stream, a new map design live stream, and we have a very important guest, very important person in our community and our site and our game. Literally without this person, I don't know what the site would do and what the community would do. Responsible for maintaining and killing all the bugs on the site and adding new features and helping run the community, and also makes amazing maps. And I know you guys already know who that is, so I present to you Walker. Look at that transition. Wow, what quality. Pro streamers right
stream
here.
quality there. Thank you for having me. Welcome everyone. We're not going to talk about most of the things you mentioned today, especially not bugs, features, none of that. You have to save it for your podcast.
Well, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, first episode's already out.
True, but possible new episode.
And you discussed plenty of feature ads without me there, so clear you don't need me for that.
Hey, Go7 said that he had talked with you.
Oh yeah, talked with me.
Was that not true? I thought he had really talked with you and you had said all those things.
He talked with me. He was being very gracious about my level of commitment. That's all right. Penguin can hope, right?
Because he was like, Walker said we need to set up these, what was it? Like, criteria and stuff like
criteria.
that?
Yeah, the criteria.
Which
is true.
Wow.
I did tell him that. I told him that that's the first step that happened no matter what. The other steps just don't naturally follow from that first step. But, baby steps.
Yeah, like it's good to have, I guess, to have that criteria as a guideline, but
I'm not making promises. But I'm not here today to take a crap on Joe's hopes and dreams. We'll let them live a little longer.
It'd be beautiful to have those burnt forests.
I mean, it is cool. Don't get me wrong, it is cool.
I mean, it's gonna help. I'm fix fog.
Curious to see his proposal.
True. But yeah, we can leave that for another time, so we don't have to.
Yeah, just like today, there's some enjoyment in roasting proposals and maps.
True. We have a lot of maps that people have sent, at least like 10 maps. So we have a lot. I'm not sure we're gonna be able to cover them all, but we can do like 1 or 2 each, and then find a few that are new. We can do some of the DMC. That was a good idea of yours, to look at some of the DMC weeks. There was one that was like iPhone's live play. I think that could be really interesting. I think there was one that was fog base light, and I can't remember those. The last one, I'm not a big fan of this last one. The weird dimensions of the map.
I mean, I've never been much of a believer in gigantic maps anyway. It's just, I don't know. Back when AWBW was all asynchronous, it just wasn't even possible to play on those maps in any reasonable amount of time. The second you have like a Deathboard 40 by 30 map, it's going to take like a year to actually finish the game.
True.
And you have to click so many times and get carpal tunnel by the end of the game. So yeah, I'm not much of a believer in them.
You can't even play them live because it's like, to be able to move stuff, you need a bigger increment. You need 3 minutes per, or more. And at that point, your game is just extending. Like, it's like a Monopoly game. It just never ends.
Yeah. Does it count as live play if it takes an hour until your opponent can finish their move because they have to move so many units?
Yeah. I mean, if you do it asynchronous, that's gonna take forever. I guess it would take the same amount of time that a normal one if it's asynchronous, but depends on the day limit that you put.
I agree with you. We can probably stay away from DMC5.
Yeah.
And the fog ones, I mean, not my cup of tea.
Okay. We can definitely do the high funds live play DMC then.
Yeah. I looked through some of those previously, but I'm sure I missed some of them. So be new to me also.
Welcome everyone. Welcome Starbright, Josh PW, Christian, Advanced Warrior. Different Walker background. Is it a different background?
Yeah, it's a different background from when I was streaming before. Not from the last time you and I were on,
Okay.
but when I did streams previously, I did them in a different room.
I haven't watched any of those streams. Are they on Twitch?
Wow, I'm offended.
Where are they?
Didn't do your research?
No.
Oh yeah, they're on Twitch. They're pretty old, honestly. I might have even done them like before you joined the site. I don't blame you.
I've been starting to learn that a lot of people that I thought that had joined recently actually joined way before me. I feel like a baby on the site all of a sudden. Like,
really? Like who?
well, I thought Poland had joined like after I did. And he was just like crushing everyone. And then I learned on the podcast he had actually joined like a year or two before I had. So he had a lot of practice.
Doesn't that make you feel better though when you find out that someone who just had a meteoric rise actually had an alt account for like 2 years?
Yeah. You know who also? Rip.
Yeah.
Rip had like, if you look at his global league, it's just like all the way up. I guess you could say the same thing about Poland. But I was like, wow, this Rip guy is like really good. I mean, he is really good now, but like from the start, that's like very uncommon to see for someone to just start off.
Yeah.
And just go straight up.
99% of the time, it's an alt. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not so often. You know this new account called Grunt. It's at the top of the hyphen of the blog ladder, and I've talked to him, and he's new. He's just a new player. And he's skyrocketed to the top. So
yeah, there are some. I mean, Go was the same way, right? Like he never had an alt account. It's pretty rare.
True. I actually joined. What was it? 2022, July 2022, like second half of 2022. And like Go, Poland, we're all like 2021, I think.
Most people came in 2020, right at the announcement
of the reboot.
Wait, I actually didn't realize that you were a year later.
The announcement of the reboot was beginning of 2021.
It was like June 2021.
Oh, okay. So midway.
So there's a lot of people who started like June through September here.
Yeah. Oh, we got Bum or Bum. We got Bum on chat.
Why don't you just get Bum in here?
I should get Bum in here.
He can probably tell you more about maps than I can, honestly.
I mean, I checked out his little, he streams in Design Maps channel, well, the voice channel every now and then. It's fun.
Yeah, shout out Bum.
Yeah.
Good maps.
True.
Maybe we'll even take a look at one today.
Someone was asking, Josh PW is asking, would love to hear a bit from Walker on the contested base maps coming. You threw a bomb on the Design Maps channel.
You know, it's funny because there was a conversation, I don't remember which channel it was in, maybe it was one of the live league channels the other day that inspired me to take another look at how we're selecting maps for live play. Because like a lot of the maps are basically asynchronous maps. They're proven asynchronous that then we just threw into live leagues. We're like, these are probably decent for live. But we've never really like developed a meta for live play. And my point of view is that you can probably get away with a lot more in live play than you can in asynchronous play in terms of, let's say, weird and maybe sharp is a better word, like sharp gimmicks. So things like contested bases, where normally in an asynchronous game, you can move plan them out, to the 12th turn and probably find a line that is just like the best line. In a live game, you're not going to be able to do that. And so you might be able to get away with some things that are balanced, but very, very sharp, as long as they're still fun.
But wouldn't that also apply to live if you pre-plan? Like if you know about that map, then you already planned that 12 turn plan?
Maybe, but the way that we have live league set up, at least, if you have enough of those maps and there's enough different possibilities that you can't have planned for all of them ahead of time, then they could get solved over time, for sure. That's part of the testing.
So what you're basically saying is that we need like 30 or 50 contested base maps.
Yeah, perfect. Why stop there? Hundreds.
You know, one of the DMCs should be that. Should be contested basis. I hope they make that
I
one
mean,
for the next week.
some people were saying that. My disclaimer is that this is all completely untested,
Yeah.
not verified. Like, so if people just go and make 100 contested base maps in a week, they're probably just gonna all be terrible. Like, I don't want to build up anyone's hopes that they're gonna be making something good.
Yeah, it's more so theoretical. But hey, after a lot of testing and a lot of bad maps, then maybe eventually you will get a few, or maybe like a certain line of contested bases that kind of always works, or we know it works,
Right.
so it'll be easier.
Yeah, I wanna try to figure out if there's some principles that give them a better chance at working. And it might be that we find out that none works and it's all just crap and we scrap it and try something else. But I have some other ideas too for live play that aren't just contested bases. So I'm not going to share too much because I want to work on it in peace.
Yeah, you're not gonna spill some of those ideas.
Not today.
Okay.
But if you're lucky, I'll bring up a contested base map near, and we can marvel at it.
So I feel like one of the things for live play, as you were saying, I definitely agree that some live play is a bit different than global league, and maybe the maps could get away with some stuff. And I guess it would be like, there's something that I don't like with maps with live play is that when they have a lot of units, or maybe like if the gimmick requires a lot of units, like pre-deployed stuff, like mini transports or units behind pipes, or stuff like that, it makes it really complicated. And I feel like something that is used a lot on the site when you're playing live is clicking the little the next unweighted or whatever unit. And so whenever you have a unit, like classic black boat on your HQ, it's really annoying because you just can't rely on that thing anymore. So that's kind of my little 2 cents on live play future meta.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you that I'm making maps that are very friendly for that button. Some of them definitely need pre-deployed units to work as best as they can, but I know exactly what you mean. Anything like that just kind of slows down the experience.
Mm-hmm. Okay, should we get started with the maps? Let's see.
That's why everyone's here.
Yeah. So, let's pull up. See who was the first one. I think. Okay, Dr. Nasty sent me one.
Yeah, and I think he's in the chat also.
Yeah.
Josh PW is Dr. Nasty.
Oh, okay. Oh, and Daddy Maxac is also here. Nice. Welcome, everyone. Oh, don't worry. Yeah, that's fine, Daddy Maxac. See you later. There's this standard mixed base.
Then
it's gonna be tricky, but we can look into it. He sent me 2. One is a risky standard map, and the other one is a high funds live map with a good game on it, with a good level game in it. Okay, which one do you want to do? The standard one, standard mixed base, or high funds live?
I've been into live play lately, so I'm down for the live map.
Okay, let's do that. It's gonna be
plus
high
more
funds.
people need to be exposed to high funds.
True, that is true. Okay, let's take a look at this map. There's also a game he sent me, so we can look at that game actually as well.
Okay.
Oops. So, there you go. Ooh, why is the chat so tiny? I'll make it a little bit bigger. Okay. So we have this map, everyone.
So it's base light for high funds.
Let's go to the planner.
It's interesting because I feel like a lot of times high funds maps can get away with being a little bit higher terrain in chokier for a couple of reasons. One is because air units are usually really prominent. So you don't have to worry so much about choke points because there's more ways of, or choke points because of heavy terrain like mountains or rivers. So there's more ways to get KOs through them with air units. And there's also just more units that can get one-hit KOs. So like Neo tanks, for example, can just break through a lot of otherwise indefensible or unattackable positions.
Yeah, because
So
they'll
in
kill tanks,
general,
AAs.
yep, infantry especially.
Yeah.
So in general, I feel like high funds maps tend to be a little bit chokier because of that. This one's interesting because it's not at all. I mean, you have some chokes in the corners, but
Yeah,
like the whole center of the map is really open. And a lot of times I try to stay away from that for high funds, just kind of out of like a general principle. It's not to say it can't work, but a lot of times the center is very, very strong always in any map, but especially in high funds as well. So if you have a very open center, you need to have something in the corners that makes it worthwhile to be there. So in this case, like the airports are back well defended. The HQs are kind of in the center. The towers are kind of on the periphery of the center, but you can defend them. So my immediate thought on this map is that it's going to end up as a center fest, unless the capture phase works out in such a way that the corners are actually where all the contested properties happen, and everything near the center is actually pretty safe.
Yeah, so I was kind of looking at the capture phase, and so you have this guy. Obviously, it's gonna go over here. The next one, you could
Do you want to just move it?
like maybe here. This guy would go here, but maybe this one can go over here. So like this city, you would get it really fast. Nice, because it's 2 turns away. You can't say the same thing about these two. So this city is not contested, 100%. Like maybe you send this guy here, and then the 3rd infantry you send it over here.
Yep.
And
by the time that 3rd infantry is going there, your 1st infantry should be going towards the corner probably.
This one will,
or even
I think maybe this city, right?
Yeah, for
because
that
you have
chain.
this chain. So what I'm thinking
and
is
that chain's more valuable than the chain that's down to the right.
Yeah, and like this one can be gotten by this guy maybe. So this guy goes over here. I mean, there's also an argument for this, but I think you want to really. I guess the airport is really far back actually, so that one's gonna take a while.
And I was gonna say I don't think there's an argument for going for that, because this is the other thing I noticed right away looking at this map. The base that you started with is much, much closer to the center than the other base, and it has more properties around it. So that base that you haven't built anything on yet, it only has 1 property within 1 turn, and it only has 2 other properties within 2 turns, right? As opposed to the starting base, which has several more that you can go for.
Yeah.
So realistically, that base on the bottom is more overloaded. So the property that's to the right of it directly should be responsible, or the other base should be responsible for it.
For the city.
And then I would imagine whatever captures that is going to go here.
Yeah. Yeah, so like first guy goes here. Then second guy probably goes for the airport.
Yep.
And then the 3rd guy would go over here. And after 3 infantry, you're going to start making tanks and neo tanks. So.
Exactly. Especially in a base light game.
Yep. It's going to be very infantry scarce.
That's actually one of the reasons why high funds base light tends to not work that well if you're not really careful about it, because in high funds you already have the ability to start making vehicles very early, and so that limits the amount of infantry that you generally are building. And in base light that's even worse, because you just have 1 less base making infantry, and generally base light maps will develop faster anyway. So
maybe something
infantry.
Maybe the airport could come online faster, or maybe it could be already captured. Because if you're able to make a copter and then an infantry, then you can have a little bit more infantry instead of just having 6 probably.
Exactly. There's 2 reasons that I like to have the airport pre-owned a lot of times for base light maps and high funds. One is for exactly what you said, so that infantry are more available. But 2 is you end up with transport copter shenanigans. And everyone loves transport copter shenanigans.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the things that I really like about high funds, that you can make a T-copter like day 2, and then you start boosting stuff, and that's a lot of fun.
And it's not bad either.
Yeah,
Like you can do that in standard sometimes too, but in high funds it's actually not bad. And I wonder
in standard, like I don't know, 5% of the maps maybe.
Okay, fog is maybe a better example.
Fog,
you
yeah,
get away with it more. But in this map in particular, because that right-hand base is relatively weak, meaning the access to the center properties takes longer, it has fewer properties directly next to it, it would actually be helpful, I think, if you had access to transport copters earlier. So transport copters could theoretically support that base and then allow you to get easier access to some more properties quicker, which would help balance it a little more and make that base more useful.
Yeah, so you can have a T-copter here. And then you can start going 2, 4, 6, and you can boost that city right there.
Yep. And if that was the case, what I would do is change the way the pipes are laid out so that transport copter actually could only support the one base instead of supporting both bases potentially.
So you mean like it only being able to go one or the other way?
Yeah, so like the pipe, instead of blocking the tile directly above it, would block the tile directed to the left.
So like this.
Instead.
And then it can go up like this. It goes 2, 4, 6. And you can only start boosting these guys.
Exactly. Now it gets complicated. Like the reason I say I would want it to do that is you don't want to make the stronger base even stronger, because if the transport copter can go either way, then you could just use it from the strong base and make the advantage even more pronounced, which will lead to turn advantage. So if it can only support the weaker base, then it balances it a little.
Okay, so when you were saying stronger base, you mean this one, right? Because it has more cities. Okay, yeah. I was getting confused because this one has less. I also think because this one. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I consider the base on the left to be stronger because not only the cities but also access.
So access to the middle. So tank does 2, 4, 6.
Yeah, I think for tanks it's similar, but because the infantry can reach those properties earlier, that's who's going to be controlling initially.
So what I was also thinking about the capture phase is that these two are not contested, right? And then I don't think these two are contested either. Right. What I think are these might be contested. Because this guy is going to go like this, for example, so it's in range of all these 3. And then you're going to want to get this one. Because if you don't get it, then you can, I don't know, get harassed or something. So you get this one. And then you're already in range to threaten a capture or threaten an interrupt. So it's going to be really awkward. And it doesn't look like...
reset it so we can do both sides simultaneously? Because a lot of times...
Yeah.
You have to understand the timing of the other side too, because like you have that first infantry for Cobalt Ice that's going to capture the city below, and then it's going to be moving towards that area, right? So the timing that is moving towards that contested property is also going to affect it.
Yeah, let me just change the... I need to change the settings of the thing, the enhancements thing. Oh, not that. I always forget how to do this. Options. There you go.
So Starbright is asking, is it a problem to have light int count in games? And it's not inherently a problem. The reason that I would try to stay away from it is because it makes games really hard to actually win. So if you can't get a funding advantage over an opponent, and it makes it really hard to close out games. And obviously HQ capture, threat of HQ capture is a win con. So in maps where you don't have a lot of infantry available, you can't threaten to capture your opponent's properties, which means you can't consolidate positional advantages that you've gained. And then once you can't consolidate, like you can imagine you could push forward, but the closer you get to your opponent is to keep an attack going. You have to have a greater and greater unit advantage, value, count, etc., in order to keep your attack going. So if you can't consolidate that by getting their properties, then they can just huddle back and your attack will peter out and then they'll be able to expand again. So if you don't have the infantry, then it just makes games very, very difficult to actually win.
We also have. Oh, I can't have the chat. Okay, there you go. Jitakwin is in chat. Hey, Jitakwin. Asking, are there plans to unban stealth fighters on some high funds maps?
So the short answer is no. The long answer is absolutely not. I know that you're a big fan of stealth fighters, but they have one of the worst mechanics in the game in being able to hide. On top of the fact that they're only hittable by certain unit types anyway, and when they're hidden, they're only hittable by 2 units. So, a pretty bad mix. We want dynamic play, not unbreakable walls.
I'm trying to figure out the chat. I don't know why it's not updating so fast on my end, but I'm learning these things. Custom browser? No.
What about the extension? Are you trying to change?
No, I already changed the income. That's what I wanted to change. I'm trying to do the chat, but whenever I click back on here, it leaves, so I can't see the chat. So I'm kind of blind
so
to
you
what
have to
people
change the income to reflect high funds, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I did 2K each.
I never use the extension, so I don't know all of these tricks and what.
Oh, Talos is here as well. Welcome, welcome. Actually, I had to see. Give me a second, everyone.
You know, Talos, if you want more PL, then maybe you should start making some maps. All of my maps for the longest time were Amber Blaze versus Purple Lightning, because those were my favorite 2 colors. But these days I just mix it up. And with colorblind, then it doesn't really matter anyway.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Now, like, it doesn't really matter, and you just whatever color your opponent picks, you can just change it.
Yeah, it used to be though that some map makers always use the same color scheme on every map. So you could just like look at the countries and tell who the map was by. So like Headphone always used to do Gray Sky and Yellow Comet. Mine were always Amber Blaze and Purple Lightning. Mori for the longest time just used the default countries, so his were always Orange Star versus Blue Moon. So people have gotten away from that. Now everyone just mixes it up randomly, but once upon a time.
Yeah, I like it when, maybe I'm too basic, but I like it when they're facing each other and they're like contrasting colors. There's literally some countries that are like, Jade Sun, like, come on, who made that color for Jade Sun? I mean, I feel like the theme is awesome, but it's like, kind of hard to see.
It's too hard to see the tell apart the cities and bases and stuff from neutral. I agree.
Okay, so let's start the capture phase here.
Yeah.
Got the penguins here. Yeah, definitely want to go for
probably
that.
middle. Mm-hmm. And just to be clear, the FTA counter on this map does look good. So the way that this was set up is correct for this base setup. There's other things that you can do for base light maps, but this is by far the most common one. It works in most cases. So I encourage people to use this FTA counter. Yeah, I think that's definitely a decision. Go for the highest funding first.
Highest funding, okay. I feel like in high funds, you can get away with not going with highest funding more often. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
Because
there's not such defined breakpoints. Like you don't need to have a tank by turn. You can delay it, and then because vehicles come out so early, you don't need to like rush.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you would make another one here, so it goes here, and then you could actually make a tank here. It goes 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6. So I wouldn't be able to interrupt this one.
But you could interrupt the other one, obviously.
Yeah, but this guy's not gonna reach.
Right.
So I think you're just gonna make another infantry. Or an APC? Nah.
Not an
Let's
APC,
just-
not enough infantry.
Let's not do any weird stuff. This guy's gonna go there. And then the perfect spot.
That was always the voice of Akasha thing in the past, by the way. He would always move his infantry so that it could threaten to capture the most possible cities, even when there was one that was so obviously better than the others.
Yeah.
Like he would do it even when it was the choice between like a city and a base. He would still move the infantry in between them instead of closer to the base.
Yeah.
A lot of people pick that up over time. Like just it's almost a meme now in my mind, even if people don't really recognize it.
Yeah, most of the time it is just a meme. You feel like you're being super efficient with your infantry, or like, I don't know, not showing your hand, but it's obvious.
Right.
Um,
And the extra fuel that you waste doesn't matter because fuel never matters on infantry.
Exactly. So what do you make now? So this guy's gonna go here. This one, I think, will go here and then goes back for the airport. This one will go over there. So
I think you can justify a tank from the weaker base.
from over here, because then you can, this guy goes here, and then you move the tank to 4-6, and then you can start capturing. It won't be able to attack. But what about a
Yeah, so
recon?
maybe you don't even need the tank yet.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't reach. Okay. The recon doesn't reach either. Just by one tile.
What's interesting though, the property to the left of that, it can reach that one, can't it?
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that is true.
And it would get there in time.
If you make a recon here, then this guy walks here, you move the recon, capture, interrupt. And
I can't decide if that's cool or if that's super unhealthy.
And on the other side, if you make a recon here, oh, that's kind of FTA, I guess. Because you have to make a... Oh, wait. Actually, maybe not.
I mean,
because there's two
it's
infantry
hard to
here.
say if it's hard to say if it's FTA too, because remember that we didn't push that infantry forward immediately, right? You went backwards for funding instead of forwards.
Yeah, and
The reason I don't like this sort of interaction, two reasons, I guess. One is being able to contest properties really early in base light is kind of rough, or it can be rough because you're reducing infantry counts and you already don't have that many infantry to capture properties anyway. So it can be kind of shaky. But also what I don't like is that the country that's able to interrupt, like the base that's interrupting, is the mirrored base. So it's the same base is interacting with itself, which is almost always going to lead to turn.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, it's literally the same base.
Yeah, exactly. So usually when that happens, especially when it's happening in the center, especially when it's happening with early contested properties, that's usually a recipe for turn advantage.
I mean, I was gonna say there isn't, because there is 2 infantry here and there's 3 here, so this one could have been a recon, and then it would also reach to interrupt this.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, keeping in mind that recons can interrupt a bunch of stuff, you could probably justify building a recon pretty early and it'll pay for itself.
Yeah, especially in base light. Like, this is how many infantry you're gonna have, pretty much, because now you can just start making tanks.
Yeah, until neo tanks start coming out. And that's one of the things that's cool about high funds and why a map like this might actually work. Like, you might be able to justify just building infantry early if you have enough things that you can capture, and then not building light tanks and just building a neo tank, right? So your opponent builds a light tank to go harass you, and then you respond immediately with a neo tank, and then your captures are secure.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard for me to say what's better or not. Someone like a top level high funds player might have a better idea of how that works out in general.
So maybe here this could have like just a single plane style. Actually, just this one, look, the center one. It would just fix the little recon attack here, because it reached perfectly in 2 full moments. So just one plane style, it would remove that. Of course, if you have Sturm, then Sturm is just gonna break everything always, but let's not even think about
this
Sturm.
exacerbates what we were mentioning, or what I mentioned at least, in the initial thoughts on this map, is that on a map like this, where the center is relatively open, you don't really want a lot of contested properties or contestable properties in the center, because everywhere that you can contest one of those properties, that's going to be a focus for fighting. right? Units are going to build up there, and you already want them building up in the center. So realistically, I think on this sort of map, you don't want that to happen. You want the contested areas to be more in the wide parts of the map, and you want the center to be a little bit more closed off. Or if it's not closed off, it needs to not have contestable property, ideally.
Yeah, because I can see if maybe you start this recon and then tank, and then just everything starts funneling into here, the middle, and the corners are going to be very touched. There's going to be like one infantry capping here and no vehicles being sent.
Right. And what's also important about the corners is that it's not very easy. If you commit a unit to the corner, it's not very easy to move it back to the center to contest something. Like a unit that's contesting one of those cornermost cities is going to take 2 turns to get back anywhere else.
Yeah.
So it's effectively out of the battle until it moves away from contesting those cities.
I was thinking, you were thinking about the airport, if you do the pipeline here and it can go this way. It is being blocked by this pipe as well. So it'll be like 2, 4, 6, and then 2, 4. Well, I guess this works because it prevents you from just like speeding up this corner and then like holding it with whatever. And then this doesn't become contested at all. So I think this is probably really good, actually.
What I'd like to see more on this map is, or on a map like this, is a more closed off center and a more open corner. Okay. And ideally, if you're going to put the bases relatively far back, like is done here, which is fine, having a way to accelerate unit with like a transport copter or something to those contested areas, I think is helpful. So meaning being able to accelerate them to the corners.
So let's see. Say you make a artillery, because why not? Oh, you go there. You go there. Oh, this guy doesn't have a capture. This is gonna cross over the mountain. You're gonna go for that city. This artillery is just like gonna protect something.
Yeah, I mean, the artillery is only going to really be useful if you send it to the corner, right? Otherwise, it's just a sitting duck.
Actually, this tank is going to stay here, so I can point at the comm tower. Yeah, this is going to go over here somewhere. I mean, this whole area is like very artillery friendly.
Yeah, which is cool. I appreciate terrain that is very indirect friendly for high funds. And I think in live play, it's also a good thing. But it has to also still be accessible for the unit.
Let's save up for a neo tank. Oops. Here you go.
Yeah.
Ooh, do you go for that city? Do you go for that one?
I mean, I think realistically, because your infantry are relatively limited, you'd want to go for the chain to the right. But this is where everything starts getting contested, right?
Yeah, you can start seeing that these two are very contested. Maybe the no, the comm tower's probably not. It's just gonna take a while to get it, but
yeah, because you can probably keep it neutral for a while. But I think in the end, the closer base will definitely get it.
Yeah, because you're gonna go for these first, and like you would have to capture this with this guy right here. You have to go back and capture this. Wow,
and this is where it gets tough, right? Because you could literally just stream a tank in, attack one infantry, and now there's nothing left to capture those properties. And it's hard to replace that infantry. If you replace the infantry, you don't have an attacking unit. This is where base light maps can get kind of, I don't know, I won't say bad, but they feel bad to play on sometimes. To me, the big advantage of a base light map is that you're going to have less units built up, and you can get away with chokier terrain and some setups that wouldn't work if you had too many units, because it's hard to wall effectively. So you can end up with interesting positions with relatively limited unit that you can't create on other maps. But when they're wide open like this, I think it's just going to be messy.
I think a Neo tank. Yeah, I can start to see the battles over here. It's gonna get pretty annoying. So say you close off here, maybe what, mountains, sea tiles, and mountains could be cool. And then you have the pre-deployed airport, so you can go there. The thing with doing that is also that it would make the comm tower available much sooner, because I think there's this gimmick of like you have to break the seam to get the comm tower.
Right, and I don't really have a strong opinion on whether tower availability early on is important. For high fun, I don't think there's that much. It might even be better because infantry on infantry battles matter less if you don't have a tower. Delaying the tower is probably fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say as this one stands right now, it would, like, you could play it live and it might result in some interesting games, but I think it'll be very messy and very center.
So it's actually a game that Dr. Nasty sent me. How do you do this? Upload, replay. You like that? Oh.
Yeah, someone else must have uploaded it.
I think you have to, let's see. Oh, this one? Is it this one?
No, that one's still available. But if you go to the game list.
Oh, it is this one. 1146044.
Okay.
Yeah, it's this one.
I assumed it was an older one.
Look at the corners.
Yeah.
APC. Wow. Okay. And then you're gonna jump for the one over there.
Oh, and they used the APC to boost to the airport actually, and then built the Neo tank.
Oh. Nice. Medium tank.
Yeah, the classic debate whether medium tank plus artillery is better than Neo tank.
Neo tank.
Yeah, I would agree, especially since the medium tank and the artillery aren't next to each other.
Yeah, the combo of medium tank artillery is really nice. There's some magic there that is really cool. But the Neo tank on itself is, yeah, exactly. They're like very slow.
If you could send a medium tank and artillery to the corner, it might be better in the corner than a Neo tank, but Neo tank could just run away. See, like right there, yellow comment on the right, I would have contested that city. You kill that infantry and Cobalt Ice is never getting that city. You just back it up with a medium tank, you back it up with the artillery. Like, what are they going to do?
Yeah, you can send that infantry. Just send the infantry.
You send the tank, I mean, the Neo tank has 4 targets. It can only hit 1. And you can protect, like the medium tank and the artillery can protect each other, and they can protect the other 2. So yeah, I would just send the tank around, kill the infantry, back up with the artillery, and chain with the tank, medium tank.
Yeah, but the artillery, like...
Basically anywhere that the Neo tank can attack from the HQ.
Yeah, I was thinking like you do tank, because you have to do tank here, infantry here, and then you have to, I mean, you can't protect the tank from this tile.
Yeah, I think that's fine though. If you really wanted to, you could send the central medium tank.
You could just
that direction too.
You could just put it here, like right in front of the Neo tank, and then you bring the medium tank, you put it like, I don't know, here, and then that's fine.
Right? The value of that tank is negligible compared to the value of that city. Like, they're not going to get that city in the next 3.5 days, and that's what the value of the tank is.
Yeah, because this guy's going to go there, and then there's only 2 more infantry.
Yep. And then if you get any chip value on the Neo tank in response, then that's even better, but...
Okay, Do you wanna call it? Do you wanna look at another map?
Yeah, we can move on to another one. We spent a pretty good amount of time, and I think this one, it's a good example. Sometimes it's nice to have maps that aren't necessarily like perfect, because there's clear things that you can point out. Sometimes it's really hard evaluating a map that doesn't have anything obvious wrong with it.
Okay.
What you need to do, are you familiar with The Office?
The show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't like watched it though. But
There's one episode, which maybe you've seen the clip of, where Michael from The Office goes around roasting everyone. And after every roast, he yells, "Boom, roasted." You need to get that clip and then just play it after every map analysis we do.
Okay.
So Dr. Nasty, your map has been roasted. Boom.
You hear that, Dr. Nasty, or Josh PW?
I don't know if he's still here.
We have semi-original guy in here. Kill Me First. How's it going? Glitch Hunting Gamer. How's it going? I have a map from. Let's see this map.
Apologies that we're not, focusing on chat too much.
Yeah. What is this? It's a live play Fog of War. But you don't want to do Fog of War, so. Let's see. Let's look at another one.
I mean, it's not. I have opinions on Fog of War. I don't know if my opinion are really aligned with what anyone who plays Fog of War would appreciate.
Do you want to do this one real fast? So you can mix in some fog?
I don't know. My point of view is that you could probably find someone who is more familiar and likes Fog of War, and that they'll be able to give you better feedback than I would.
Okay. Then I'm sorry, Quick Slow. He sent me this map, but we'll have to do fog on another stream.
Yeah.
And then
we can't roast it because it's not good enough to be roasted. Boom.
I have some from Sulfur Rent, DMC map.
As long as it's not DMC5.
Oh, I have DMC3. Okay, so we can look at this map and we can roast it a little bit. Yeah, I know this one. Does this ring a bell?
Yes, actually, yes. I remember commenting on it, although it looked like it's changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
From what I remember.
I think I need to change the funding if I'm going to do that thing. So this one is standard. Okay.
Yeah, this was from the one where we had the infantry locked. That was the idea. Infantry locked base.
Yeah, so DMC. Okay, so for everyone in chat viewing that maybe don't know what DMC is, it was started by Daddy Maxtech as like a weekly challenge in the Design Maps channel in the Discord, and it was in an effort to like just have a prompt that people would vote for, and then you have to design maps with that. And so that's why it says here DMC3. So it's like design maps challenge, and the numbers the week. So every week it would change. And certain weeks was like high funds live play. Another one was like base light fog. This one was as you were saying, it's like one infantry base, or like infantry mech base and standard. So that's what you have here. And instead of your usual infantry base that's like surrounded by mountains, in this case it's like an island that you're shipping T-copters. And there's no port, so you can't bring a lander to make vehicles. So it's strictly infantry based.
Only get infantry off the island.
So
the key thing about this map, I mean, just to kind of go over the setup in general, you can see that it's very hard to reinforce both sides of the map with vehicles. In order for vehicles to get from the bottom right, for example, for red fire, to the other side, they have to go through a pretty good distance and then the terrain isn't necessarily that favorable either. So you're mostly going to be supporting, like for Red Fire, they're going to support the top front, mostly with infantry and mechs, and then slower vehicles, and then vice versa on the bottom, where they can get vehicles there faster. And what's interesting about this one is that Soul for Rent made the decision to make the terrain really, really heavy in the area where it's going to be infantry mech versus vehicles. And obviously that favors mech a lot,
and
right?
copters.
Disadvantages vehicle.
Because you have the
And
airport right
copters,
here.
yes.
Yeah,
Good
so my guess when Sovereign was working on this, and probably the approach that you would naturally go for is like from the 2 base into this area, you're just gonna siege with artillery and anti-airs and infantry, maybe medium tanks, so as to like deal with mechs and stuff. And here you're just gonna be making infantry, mechs, and copters all the time. So you send a copter, it gets killed by an anti, you can snipe it with a mech. I still think it's favored for the 2 base, even though that, but it can definitely get very tricky, like behind these mountains. Like I don't think you can ever access this area from the 2 base. It's just so choky. Well, maybe now with the changes you can, because before the bases were over here, so it took a really long time. But maybe you can now. This makes also the infantry get closer, get faster.
Would you ever send tanks to go attack anti-airs on the other side?
Oh, maybe,
like, would you ever pass them across towards your HQ?
I think so, yeah. Because you can definitely argue to send it to the middle. There's a lot of cities over here in the middle as well.
Because usually the problem with mechs against anti-air is that mechs take a ton of damage from anti-air also. But I wonder if the mountains change that enough. I don't know the damage formulas by heart. But like, if an anti-air first strikes a mech on a mountain, who wins that?
I think it's like an even trade. Let's see. Let's assume a tower each. Oof, that's a lot of damage, okay.
So that's a 3-8. I mean, value-wise, it's like by the time the mech dies, it's an even, but it doesn't feel good for unit count.
Yeah, but I think you really want to take out the anti-air, because if not, it's just going to start killing copters. So, like, ideally, you just get a first strike like that.
Yeah. Yeah, if the mech gets the first strike, that's definitely winning. Although even then, there's a lot of cities and forests there, so the anti-air will do a little bit better.
Yeah, if it's on, like, say 8 attacks from the comm tower, then it only does 5. I mean, it's the same as a tank, no? Like, mech does the same damage to an anti-air as a tank does.
Yeah.
I think.
This is the hard part, though, I think, about this unit triangle, mech, anti-air, copter, is that anti-airs are just the king of the triangle, and they don't need that much health to kill copters. So, like, you can get an anti-air first struck by a mech, and then the anti-air can still fight copters. No problem.
Yeah, you can send it to heal. Like, it's left at 3, 4, 5. You send it to heal. And this is super close now for anti-airs. So literally, like, one turn, it's already pressuring this whole area on the second turn. So,
I like the way this map is designed overall, though. I think the setup is pretty good. Like, for example, you have the tower and the airport in the bottom that could be targets. Important strategic targets. If you shut down that airport, if you get an anti-air anywhere near it, you're probably going to win. And flipping the tower is really important on a map with such heavy terrain. The difference between 0 and 2 towers is much more important than it is on a lower terrain map. So I think that the importance of those areas is well established. But there's still a lot of reason to go to the center too. Right? It's not just going to be like flood units straight to the bottom and top front. There's a lot of cities and the HQ more towards the center. So there's reasons that players would be moving across. And if you hold the center, then obviously you can kind of front shift potentially.
Yeah, you can also kind of threaten the HQ. But I was looking at the capture phase as well, and it, like, there's only one city over here for the 2 base to go to. So I feel like the natural flow is going to be like, for example, you go here, this one can go there, then you send one and it'll go here because there's this huge chain, almost infinite change of cities. Oh my god. So you're going to be sending at least 2 infantry over here, but maybe because it's all chains, maybe you're not going to send that many. So you'll send 1 or 2. So you send one here and the second one goes over here and you start doing tuk. And then the next ones can go over here and try to take that counter.
And I actually think that's okay because you have 2 competing priorities and you have to sacrifice something to get one or the other, right? Like the natural one for income is send your infantry to the center. But then if your opponent does the opposite, maybe then your tower got contested and theirs didn't, or they took control of more of the corner that's harder to flip later, for example. So I think it's okay to kind of make players decide, do I want to sacrifice a little funding and go try to contest or secure the tower? Do I want to get more funding or not get as much funding? And well, now I forget which option I said first, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
There's an important choice there that you can make. The hard part about this map, I think, is that as well made as the setup is, still don't know if you'll end up with dynamic play. Is it dynamic inherently, having a ton of artillery and mechs staring at each other? Like, can you really push into it effectively? Or are you just going to end up with a bunch of units sitting there staring at each other, unable to actually move? That's where it's not really clear if it would work. But I like the idea, and the way it's set up, I think gives the idea a good chance to work.
I think that if you want to commit, like the 2 base wants to commit, it can definitely just overrun this, but it would have to like send everything into this area. It's anti-air, like using both bases. But it will probably also be investing a little bit into this area. So I'm not sure. Maybe like, I think that's the break point where it can make it dynamic or not. If there is something for this area to send towards another area. And it's not just like all in over here onto the com tower.
And what'll really determine that, I always try to think about maps like this in terms of asynchronous choices, or asymmetrical choices. So if red fire just streams everything from the 2 base down into that corner, but gray sky splits their forces, like they send some to the corner but also focus on the center, will one player obviously just auto win? Or is it viable to have the other option in play? If the other option isn't viable, then I think the map gets very simplistic and linear, and it's going to get solved quickly. If it is viable, then that creates a really interesting dynamic.
There's been a lot of messages that I haven't read.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
And we have Anna, we have Balto Galorto, welcome everyone. Cryogoose.
Poor Slow, noticing that his map didn't get roasted.
I'm sorry, Pixel. Next, when we do a fog map design stream, I'll do yours. Like I can give a little quick feedback. It seems okay overall. I'm a little worried about like the middle just being like all shoals. But we'll have to see, like how far you can push into and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm worried about it being intended for fog, personally. I think that's going to limit its popularity.
Why are you such a fog hater?
Yeah, I know. I'm just bitter old man, yelling at clouds, literally.
Do you not like playing the mode or just designing maps around fog?
I mean, I just think fog is a severely limited mode. Not because of any problem with the map, but just fundamentally in Advance Wars. The mechanics of the terrain, especially, I think are really bad.
The forest?
For dynamic play. Forests, mountains too. Just in general, vision, defense, and movement all being tied together in one tile, and being the only tile that does any of those things. Why is the only 4-star terrain tile, the only one that gives vision? And the only one that blocks, tanks from moving past it.
Yeah.
Okay, you have rivers too, but those are low defense, no vision. Like, it's really restrictive and doesn't lead to fun gameplay.
That's why we need new tiles.
Yeah.
The lobbying of the new tiles.
Or hear me out. Everyone plays high funds.
Oof. I think that's harder than making new tiles.
Maybe. Yeah. It's easier for people to ask me to do work than for me to change everyone's mind about high funds.
Quickslow says, just got back to my computer. You didn't want to roast my map because fog is superior to standard. I totally understand. You see? He's right.
Yeah, that's okay. Like I said, I recognize that I am on an island by myself. I'm buying up all the beachfront property on the island. someday you guys will want to come join me on Fog Hater Island, and everything will be super expensive and bought up. That's fine.
You've made a
I'll
bunch
wait
of
till
fog
then.
maps too, though.
It's true. I have. I mean, I'm just teasing for the most. I think Fog is okay. I just wish it had more variety.
So okay, Quicksilver is gonna make a standard map next time. Okay. Then Sulfuran says for the T-Copter map, I believe it's set up so each player can rush comp towers from their weak side. Okay. So you'd have to really rush this? I mean, I'm not sure that's the play though. Because there's a lot of income here to get. You can also get this chain here. So I guess we can keep planning a little bit. It's kind of a large map. So where do you go here? Maybe the airport?
Go to the airport. Yeah, the airport's going to be really important.
And then I'm just going to do these here. That. And you can make a mech too. Yeah, someone was saying that this looks like a Lash map. Sure.
Yeah.
Terrain
This is
tactics
definitely a
here.
Lash map.
Oof.
That's actually something I want to point out. I don't know if we talked about it at all last time, but a lot of people, I feel like their first instinct when they look at the map is they'll start evaluating the map based on whether or not COs are good on it. So they'll be like, oh, this map is terrible for coal. You didn't put any road. This map is great for Lash, etc., etc. And like people get mixed up, I feel like, on whether a map is good or whether it's good for CO variety. I think those are two different things. Like I never evaluate a map based on whether CO is good for it or not. My point of view is make the map good, and then you ban or D tier whatever certain COs depending on that, on the map characteristics.
Yeah.
But the map quality and the design choices you make for the map are completely independent. So that's my philosophy.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's better to have the map just like play well and then COs you can see. If one is too busted, you just like ban it, send it up a tier or whatever, like
Right.
it's not that complicated.
I mean, sometimes for like Global League, you'll end up with every tier just has one clear CO, and if you ban that CO, then the next CO is the clear best choice. So like it can be broken in that regard, especially for Fog that happen. In general, I think it's better when you're designing the map not to worry about COs.
Yeah, I feel like it happens a lot in standard as well, like classic tier 4 adder, tier 1
Sure.
Bombald, like there's a certain like type of map in standard, small, fast fighting, that is just like it's always those. Or Kindle, a lot of Kindle mirrors as well in standard. It's only, I feel like, when the maps get a little bit bigger in standard that there's more variety of whether to go for like Dells or you go for like Drake or Andy or Hawk or stuff like that.
Right.
So let's see. Will you make a tank here? I mean, I'd probably make an artillery and then you can just you can point at this comm tower in just 2 turns with artillery with either this base or this base. So I don't think the one base is ever gonna get this comm tower, to be honest. They would have to rush the comm tower, like Sulfurant was saying. I guess the question is, if you make an artillery to lock it, are you losing somewhere else? I don't know, maybe the fronts are kind of too small too. Like, it's such a big map, but I think most of the fighting will just happen over here. And maybe in the middle. But I'm not sure. We have to see if this can push further in to over here, could recreate some play. Let's see, let's do an artillery. Actually from this base.
All right, can you hear me again?
Yeah. Were you muted? Did your internet die again?
Hey, can you hear me now?
Oh yeah. Oh, you had it frozen. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Now you're back.
cool.
I was
Yeah,
rambling.
definitely. There's a problem with my internet, so.
That's fine. That's fine. So, oh, I'm not sure if you heard what I was saying.
No.
Oh, okay. So I was saying that. What was I saying? Okay, so one thing is that maybe the fronts are too small. So like most of the fighting will just happen around this com tower probably. Like all this stuff is going to be funneling over here and using these mountains as defensive terrain, just like position. And then with the two base in that case. So one thing is that the one base can't get the com tower because you can already lock it in 2 turns. So you're just never going to get it unless you rush the com tower.
Right.
And I'm not sure that's a good idea because even then it's gonna be very hard to maintain it. If you bring in artillery here, and then you're losing on a lot of captures.
One thing that crossed my mind just now, thinking about that, I wonder if it'd be better to have one transport copter and one black boat. The reason I say that is then you could basically make a choice, right? You could actually use the T-copter more aggressively because the black boat can still transport 2 infantry. So like right now, for example, if you use the T-copter and you just sat it on the comm tower to block it, like even if you couldn't capture it, you could prevent it being captured, right? But now if you do that, you're limiting your infantry to 1 per day on the front, to 1 every other day. But if you had a black boat, you could potentially avoid that without changing the gimmick. I wonder if that would actually be interesting or not.
I guess you could also use the T-copter for helping capture these or somewhere else, or maybe front shift a few infantry or mechs.
Exactly. It would free up a T-copter, so you could still use it to transport infantry if you wanted, but you could also use it more for transporting infantry on the landmass instead of always having to send it back and forth every turn.
Yeah, and so like in that case, for example, here you could, for example, this guy go boom, and then all of a sudden you're starting to capture over here. Kind of opens up the possibilities a lot, though.
I also wonder if it would be interesting to start with a pre-owned mech somewhere.
Pre-owned mech?
Like either on an island that you could go pick up, or on the starting island, or something like that. I wonder if that would be interesting, because that would help give the one base side, the infantry locked base, a little bit more presence in that area. Like you could divert a T-copter for a turn to go pick up your mech and plop that down so you're not just, behind further.
I can guarantee that Sulfur heard that and was already happy. It's like pre-deployed mech, yes please.
Yeah, hey, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like maps like this that are very unconventional, I think you can explore some unconventional ideas on them. And if they contribute in interesting ways, then like I can't say I've seen a map like that where you had a pre-deployed mech. Like I kind of want to go make it now, honestly. I shouldn't have revealed my idea. But I think that's an interesting possibility.
Or maybe I should use the mole site.
Yeah, shout out to Trunit or Trunit. I don't know exactly how he pronounces it. But he has a full repository of all of the replays that have been available since he at least started collecting them, which I think at least for a year or so he has. So you can just go over to his site and download any replay, which is awesome.
Yeah, I don't remember what's the name of the site. Where was it? Let's see.
It's pinned in the replay library channel, I think.
Oh. Yep. Perfect. So let's do. So if I put the name of the map. Which one do you want to do?
So Sulfurent says, I think a lot of the test games might be broken due to edits on previous versions.
Oh,
I don't know if that affects the most recent one. But yeah, that's definitely an unfortunate part of doing test games on maps.
Let's look at the most recent one then. That has boom in it.
Kill Me First mentioning that Naranja has a pre-deployed map, which
True.
Love that map. Great example of an unconventional map. It's a little bit different though because that one's not infantry locked base. It's just pre-deployed mech that you can use however you want. But yeah, that is a good example of a map that uses unconventional setups.
Let's change these colors. Let's do Andy and there you go. For all the people that like the same color with the CL.
Very thematic.
Yeah. Okay, so going for this other area.
Yeah, see, I think that's a mistake. You have to get the airport first.
Whoa,
anti-air comes early.
And boom as well, using this T-copter all the way down here. To bring a mech. There's a recon here. Okay. So yeah, see, I think the 2 base just gets the comp tower. There's no way for the 1 base to really get it, in my opinion. But maybe that's fine. And then the 1 base can be pressuring off trying to get it. But maybe it's too easy for the 2 base to just lock it with an artillery over here, and there's nothing you can really do. It's kind of tricky. What if the comp tower was like this one instead? So it's like a little bit easier for the 1 base to get and a little bit further away from the capture phase of the 2 base. And actually, red brings a tank over here, as you were saying. I'm not sure if you're frozen. I think you're frozen again. We lost him, guys. We lost Walker. Ooh, he left us. Well, in the meantime... Boom base giving a lot. True. His internet has been acting up really badly today. Even before I started the stream, we're trying to do a little test and he also froze. I think it's also interesting that there's just not a lot of tanks. You do see a lot of copters and mechs and anti-airs, which makes sense. Walker is just talking confirmed. I don't know about that one. I mean, definitely a pretty solid lash map, right? You get to use all these forests and mountains. Your powers are actually pretty good here as well. Let's see, this looks like a big middle fight. I don't think the 1 base can ever get this comp tower again. I mean, that's one way. So now Lash has the 2 towers. Pretty high income as well. Walker does not talk in 3rd person. True. Red is gonna get it again. doesn't, and that's the end of the game. Oh. Let's see if Walker comes back, and if not, we'll just have to pilot this one solo mode. But I'm not that good as Walker in analyzing maps. And Sammy, yeah, for sure. I mean, if you build up a lot of mechs here, double time can be really big. But I think those were some pretty cool ideas. Having the black boat, so because it can carry two, then you can just use the black boat back and forth. There might be a thing with the fuel, so you can either have a port, but I guess you don't want to port because you don't want to have a lander, because the whole gimmick of the infantry thing. But yeah, and I guess you can't unless you ghost it. That would be one way, but ghost units are not really a global league thing. And you're just forced to make an EPC, maybe. I don't know. Unless you have two black boats. Have black boat to heal up the other black boat. Or pre-deploy APC over here just running around. Oh, maybe it could be in the island with the mech. So you have the mech and an APC, and then like eventually you just get it. And then you have the T-copter to just front switch. That could be. Is Walker back? Hey, you're back. I know. There you go. We got him back, guys.
Again.
Did you reset the router or something?
Yeah. I rarely have problems with my internet, so go figure that the one time I do is when we're trying to stream.
Great timing.
Yeah. Hopefully you're able to hold down in the meantime.
Yeah, I kind of finished watching the match on this one, and there isn't that many contested stuff, and it's just like a big brawl in the middle, and then trying to flip the com tower. So it feels like the com tower is very over centralizing.
And that's the hard part with maps like this, is that because like it's a very fine balance between creating an interesting decision and basically not allowing units to move freely to give flexibility.
Yeah. Okay, but I think that the ideas that you said were interesting. Get the mech, the black boat. It can enable the T-copter to be used for front switching, which they use in this match a bit. I feel like maybe moving the com tower as well could be something to consider. Over here just seems very easy.
Would you move it more central? Or would you move it... Like, I was almost thinking move it to the wider area.
I was thinking like over here.
What about with the city that's down and to the left of it?
Like this one?
To the left of that even, yeah.
Oh, this one over here? Yeah, if it's over here, then it's very safe for the one base, I think. This is...
And my thought or my impression, what you suggested could definitely work if you move it a little bit more central. I just worry that since center is also already valuable, that it might just lead to even more center clumping.
Yeah.
Moving it further away helps in that it's easier to get initially, but it also moves it further away from the two base side, and then it also gives the two base more of a reward if they push, you know. So like if you overextend, quote unquote, you can potentially get something from it. Like overextending in this case, meaning going more towards the bottom. So like if you put the tower on the bottom of the map where I suggested, then if they push more towards that area closer to the airport, then you can potentially get the tower, right? So it gives you more of a reason to go that way than if you just put the tower more in central.
Yeah, I think maybe the layout here of the mountains could be changed a little bit to create more of like a pivot, like, you know, a little V section or something, where, like you were saying, have the com tower a little bit more defendable for the one base. And it also creates the decision of like, okay, the vehicles, do they go towards the middle or do they go to try and all in into the com tower?
Right.
And right now it's a little bit of a labyrinth, a little bit of a maze. Oh, that's right. I forgot to post this on the featured content. Thanks, Reza. So I think that could be reworked a little bit, the terrain, the mountains especially, because right now it's very easy for the artillery to just move in, lock this, I think if you can make it a little bit harder for artillery and anti-airs, it could create a little bit more dynamic. Like if it's 2 turns to get over here, maybe like you go like this, and then you have to like do a little S shape or something,
Right.
instead of just like going straight. Because
And that's where it's hard, because you don't want to make it too difficult either, because then it won't be feasible compared to just going and winning the center, right? Like the balance between those options is really, really difficult to nail down.
yeah.
But like I said, I think a lot of the ideas on this map are correct. The execution just has to be dialed in, and it's always so hard on unconventional or gimmick maps like this to dial in that balance.
Okay, should we move on to another one?
Yeah,
How much
maybe
time
we
have
can do one that's slightly more conventional.
Oh wow, we've been 1 hour and a half already. Wow, that's crazy. That's a
Yeah,
lot.
I mean, we kind of just had like a 15-minute introduction, and we lost a few minutes for me being gone, but
Yeah, your internet is not helping, Walker.
no.
I got one from Daddy Max Sack.
Yeah, he was telling me that he's looking forward to getting his A rank map today.
I think I know which one he means. So let's see. It'd be this
He
one.
will get
No, it's not this
a
one.
rank. It might not be a rank, but he'll get a rank.
So I think this one is the one with the most potential. I played on it. I think it's decent. There has been some changes.
I remember when he first was posting this one, and I gave him some feedback. But it looks a lot different than what I remember.
So there you go. This map was made by Daddy Max Hack. Don't drink the water, it's called.
Oh, but he's missing the apostrophe. So B rank.
Ooh.
Immediate B rank. Yeah, sorry. Those are the rules.
It's been changed quite a bit, I think. Just a little bit of the terrain layout, but overall it seems fairly similar. I think there's another mountain over here or something. Okay, so we can start.
Yeah, so
Let's start move planning, huh?
yeah, well, I was gonna say, just kind of in terms of like the overview of the map. Obviously, you've got mixed bases, and it's a 2-base, 1-base, 1-base setup, right? So you have one strong side where you have your 2 bases, and then you have a 1-base, 1 airport kind of in the corners, and then you just have one central isolated base. So the 2-base side will be the strongest point. The more protected wide base plus airport will also be relatively strong. And then the weak point is obviously the middle. And it's interesting because the middle doesn't actually have a lot of defensive terrain. I mean, it does on the one side, right? It has the sea and the river and the mountain. But in terms of being threatened by the 2-base side, it doesn't have a lot of protection. It's relatively open there. So I would expect that the dynamic you're going to see is the 2-base basically trying to flip that weak base, and the 1-base plus airport kind of mixing between harassing the 2-base and accompanying the attack, the lone base. So it looks to me like a base trade map. Maybe there's some interesting tactics that you have to use to kind of delay or accelerate the base trade, depending on what you're trying to do. And then the question after that is the map interesting after the base trade? So those are my first impressions.
Okay, so Daddy Maxac is saying that the silo is polluting the water, so that's why don't drink the water. Important lore right there.
The jet fuel.
So from playing, I remember that like this base has a lot of like its job is to be annoying kind of thing, and drain resources from either the 1 base or drain resources from the 2 base. So like this one is going to be trying to move, push out, which is going to be really awkward because like a tank from here it moves only over here or here, and then it like over here. It's really slow. This one as well. It takes a while. And this one is like immediate action and has all this defensive terrain. But yeah, you are going to be lacking numbers. So like this can harass this by making a copter, forcing an anti-air. But it can also go over here and try to like contest these properties and drain resources from the 2 base over here, so it doesn't go towards the 1 base. So there was that like dynamic in the map, I remember.
And what I like about that too is that you can, more strategies might be viable because of that, right? Like if you're playing a very aggressive CO, you might send the 1 base plus airport to just overwhelm that weak base to accelerate the base trade. If you're playing more of a stally CO, you might use it to bolster your base and try to play more defensive. And so maps that allow both strategies to be viable, I think, are interesting, especially in mixed base.
Yeah. I remember seeing, I think I saw a match. It was a live match. I think it was Shu and Campbay. They played on this map. It was tier 1. And it was Von Bolt against Nell. And they actually went into a base trade, but maybe not full. Like I think Nell was able to flip the 1 base, but Von Bolt wasn't. Oh, was it Poland? Maybe it was Poland and Campbay. I can't remember. But yeah, it was 2 high/top level players.
I would expect most games you're going to see a base trade on this map sooner or later. And I think you made a really good point that the terrain for the 2 base side limits vehicles. This is something, I don't know if we've mentioned it specifically before, but a lot of map makers do it. You'll notice from the 2 base side, the closest base to the center, their tank can go 1-2 on the forest, and then 3 tiles on the plains. And then there's 2 forests blocking it. So the tank can't actually make use of its full 6 movement. And then because you have the forest right in front of it, it also is going, on its next turn, it has to cost an additional 2. So you severely limit the movement of tanks with just 1 forest, essentially by placing it at the 5, the forest is between the 5 and 6 movement point for the tank. And that's something that you can do on maps if you want to slow down vehicles without adding too many extra forests. And I think it's a good design choice on this one.
And if you want to buff medium tanks and artillery.
Exactly. No, seriously, you use it a lot on maps where you want artillery in particular to be more viable compared to tanks. Then you can essentially make artillery and tank movement the same. Like they can get to the same points on the same amount of time.
Yeah. I think I like the fact that it makes artillery move at the same rate that a tank. So we can see more artillery.
Right. And it's important here because you don't want tanks to be able to harass the lone base. Like you want to do things, or you don't want them to be able to harass too early. You want the weak base to have a little bit of time to kind of expand and consolidate some properties before it's under attack. I would go for the uncontested one, yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking like maybe if you're Kindle, for example, you can get away with that, or Lash. Or
I mean, in general, how do you feel about that? Like, if someone did capture that in your Blue Moon, is it always good just to contest that? What do you think?
I think it depends, like, with the movement of this guy. Because if this guy goes here and then this guy goes over here to defend this, and say red is like Sammy, maybe you don't interrupt it. Because you're going to get hit, and then you get the city, and then you get pop, you get killed.
If it's like Andy versus Andy, though, on this map,
if it's Andy versus Andy, if there's no support, I guess say you go like this, I think it's worth it to go and attack this guy.
It always is, right? Because the weak base has overextended on multiple fronts.
Yeah, look how little unit count this base is having already. So I feel like if you're the 1 base, you're just never gonna do that without the support.
I think of it like, how many turns will it take? If I contest this, how many turns will it take for them to potentially win it back? Versus that infantry that's on the mountain, the property that it's passing up is only 2 turns away from the base, right? So like Blue Moon's infantry can contest the property, and then they'll be able to get the property they skipped quicker than Orange Star will be able to pick up that property.
So the question now is, where do you make the first tank? And feel like you would make it on the 2 base. We can do that approach. It's just a classic. Go more aggressive.
Hard to go wrong, yeah.
This guy is gonna go for that one. I played this one with, well, against Daddy Maxac, and I had tried doing opening B copter. I can't remember if it was actually no, I think it was kept, yeah. And I think like player 2 can do copter. Oh no, you have to base skip. Okay. I think it was a base skip copter.
So what do you think about that though? Technically, copter plus base skip is the same amount of overall units as tank without base skip, right? You're just getting a copter instead of a tank.
Exactly.
I mean, I think base skip is actually not bad in situations like this, especially if they don't have enough money the next turn to buy an anti-air, which they don't.
I think this is exactly what had happened in our match. And maybe you base skip over here, which doesn't matter as much.
Exactly. From the weak base.
So you make one, say here.
Yep.
And this copter is really strong because copters here are very strong. I think it's good that it's over here in the corner because if not, it'd be too much.
It might even be too much as it is right now, just because, I mean, if it could contest the property right away, that would be way too strong.
Yeah.
But by the time an anti-air actually gets out, I still don't think you can cover your infantry from being attacked. Like, I think that copter gets a free hit no matter what now.
Yeah, you have to double base skip for the anti-air, as Daddy Maxac was saying.
And where that can be a problem is that this strategy isn't available, right?
To red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even more importantly, if player 1, they're basically being punished for building the first vehicle, right? Because they could delay. They could refuse to build a tank the first turn, saying, oh, if they build a copter, then I can build an anti-air, right? But if they do that, then player 2 can just build a tank. They have the vehicle advantage because they'll be able to go BA instead of the intended ABBA.
Yeah, it's kind of the poisoned tank concept. At least
the thing here, what really makes it especially bad is if you look at the funding for Blue Moon next turn, they'll be able to get a tank without base skipping. So it doesn't hurt their actual vehicle timing. It still goes ABBA. It just goes copter tank, tank, copter tank, and then player 1.
I think player 1...
I think it's kind of problematic here.
I think player 1 just has to not make an anti-air.
So like this sort of thing would work if, for example, Blue Moon is going to get a strike with the copter on something. If Orange Star could use their tank that they built, which the copter can't counter, to get a hit in, then it would work, right? Because then it's basically balanced. You're just trading off the copter hit for a tank hit. But Blue Moon's going to be able to build a tank to respond in time to that tank that Orange Star built.
Yeah, say the tank was made over here instead.
It'd almost have to go down to attack the lone base, right?
It could attack over here.
But that's the thing. Blue Moon is going to be able to get another tank next turn, or a tank next turn.
Yeah, and this infantry can just move back. I guess this
right, it's not costing them anything. And not only can that infantry move back, it can actually move back and in range to capture the next property. It can go down towards the lab and capture that city.
So I think the only one move is this one. That tank can go over here, and then it can interrupt this capture next turn.
But that's right, yeah.
Because a tank is not in range over here to defend it. So that's one damage that it can do. But as Blue Moon, you would just like not go for that capture, wait, like you make a tank, and then you would go capture.
Or you could just, once you see that Orange Star has made the tank over there, then maybe you just don't even go for the copter and you just build a tank somewhere else immediately, right? It's kind of hard to balance this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. This is why pre-owned airports can be really tricky.
Would you suggest having it not pre-owned?
I don't think it would be a bad thing. Like, is there really any... Let me put it a different way. The problem, I think, is that the pre-owned airport can attack the base that's already weak. If the airport was more in a position where it would harass the 2 base side, which is already strong, I think that would be more balanced. Because then it's less disruptive. Right? In this case, the airport is actually accelerating the base trade if you go for this sort of strategy. Like, the small imbalance is accelerating a really important like win condition for the map. So it amplifies the imbalance.
Yeah, because
in this case,
this code is definitely just gonna go over here.
100%. Whereas if it's disrupting on the 2 base side, like if it, like the tank that you showed for Blue Moon that's disrupting the edge capture, that's less impactful. Like, it still hurts obviously for funding or whatever else, but it's less impactful on the win conditions for the map. It's a pretty small effect. Whereas if you're getting a free hit on an infantry, that's one less blocker on the lone base. It's less properties in that area for the lone base. It just accelerates that base trade. So I would say for this map in particular, it might be good to have the airport in, or start neutral to avoid that. And then it'll still come into play later, and air units will still be useful for either defending or attacking, depending on whether you want to accelerate or delay the base trade. But that way you don't have to worry about issues in the capture phase.
Yeah. I think other than that, plays pretty well. I feel like at a glance you would think that there isn't that many contested stuff, but it definitely does become contested. This one is very contested, but eventually this one is a little forced to defend. But you know, you get the classic dynamic of like investing a lot in your one base, so you have a lot of vehicle firepower, and so then you're actually kind of scared, so you have to pull back and you're able to control here. I think there's a lot of play here of connecting these two armies as well.
Yeah, definitely. Connecting armies is always really, really strong in mixed base, especially when it's the 2 lone bases connecting against the 2 base. I think in general, though, on maps where the base value is really imbalanced, it's okay not to have so many contested properties. It can even be a benefit, I would say. So that infantry 2 above the base should be 1 to the right. Not that one. Oh, I see what you're doing. But yeah, the other infantry, so you can capture the property by the lab.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That could be 1 there. Yeah, you're right.
I was going to say, it's okay not to have that many contested properties, because just the sheer unit value disadvantage or unit count disadvantage can cause properties to be contestable or to come under threat, even if they're not directly contested at first. Like Blue Moon might capture a property right away, and then Orange Star just has 3 infantry in that area versus 1 after a couple turns. And so they can threaten to capture it and swing it. And that actually creates even more dynamic play in some cases, because it's more valuable to capture an opposing property than it is to get a neutral.
True.
Because you're denying them the income as well. So I think on maps like this, it's okay if there's not that many contested properties, as long as you're able to pressure them without them being too defensible in the mid game.
And now we're getting into like very tricky mixed base mid game.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, this is about where I stop move planning normally. When I'm just looking at a map, this is about as far as I would go. Like once you have interactions between the first vehicles and infantry, or between infantry and most things are captured, like you can get a good sense of the flow of the map.
So maybe then to fix the issue with the copter, you just make it neutral. It's also, I mean, it's not that bad also because it's only 2 turns away, so you can get it pretty fast. There's maybe that. Well, I guess you would send the first infantry for this city for faster income, and then you send the second one over here instead of going over here. Unless you want to like super rush it.
It's actually interesting. In general on maps like this, player 2 always wants to grab the most properties they can on day 2, because that's how they get enough funds for the first tank usually. I actually don't know if that's true on this map though. It's more true on like 2-base start maps where you have a neutral base. But either way, I was gonna say it might be the case that like player 1 can rush the airport without delaying a vehicle, but player 2 can't. So like they would play it asymmetrically because of that, and that can be interesting.
Okay, nice.
I do like the way this map is set up a lot. It's like, once again, you can have a really nice setup, and then balancing the details and interactions between units for contested properties, like that's where the time and having to move plan and play practice games, that's where it gets really expensive, trying to hone in. It's the difference between a B rank map and an A rank map. A lot of times it's hard to get those details right at first.
So if the airport here is neutral, what would you rank it?
It has potential for A rank. I would make the airport neutral, and then I would double check it again.
Yeah.
But if it fixes that problem, like if everything else plays kind of the way that you have shown here and there aren't any other issues, I could see it being A rank for sure.
Yeah, it definitely feels A rankish when I played it, except for that copter thing. It was pretty strong.
Pre-owned airports are always tough for that.
So if you have a pre-owned airport, you would have to have a pre-owned city somewhere, no? So
if you make the airport
setup
neutral, you have to add a city somewhere. And I mean, I have kind of split thoughts on what the best way to do that is. Sometimes it's nice, like you can do different things. You could put the city in a contested area to create more impetus there to send units, or like more dynamic. I don't think this map needs more reasons to be dynamic because it's already going to be pretty crazy. So I would just put it in a safe area.
You would just have it this one. This could be your...
I was actually thinking something from the 2-base side, because if you look at another way to think about it is how many cities is each base responsible for? If you look at each of the 1-base sides, they don't have that many properties they're responsible for. So for funding curve reasons, it's important that they're able to capture those properties. You don't want them to already be neutral. But the 2-base side is going to have relatively more properties, so it's going to be less impactful if one of them starts pre-owned.
So would you make... I guess you could do this one maybe, or this one. Probably this one.
I wouldn't do the corner one just because that's the only one that base is responsible for.
Oh, okay.
I'd pick... I think the one in the mountains is correct.
This one.
Yeah, it's where it gets tough though, right? Because now that infantry, if it goes that way, it's 1 turn accelerated because they have to spend the time capturing.
Yes, this was what I was thinking.
Change the contested properties, yeah.
Because you do want to go here to then get these, so...
The other thing that you could do, honestly, and sometimes I've done this, you just add 1 more city somewhere. So like, you make the airport neutral, and then you put a city right below it that's pre-owned, or like 2 below it.
Yeah, like here or somewhere here. Or
yeah, like for aesthetics, you put it in the middle of that road circle. Yeah, exactly. You just put it somewhere else out of the way. I think, what's the overall funding on this map?
How do I check?
I think adding 1 more city shouldn't cause some weird funding breakpoint, right? So it's 40 per side, or 40 total.
So it's 20,
20 per side. Yeah, so 20 versus 21 on a 4-base map doesn't make a difference. So I would just add a city, put it somewhere out of the way where it's relatively safe.
Okay, cool. There you have it, Daddy Maxac.
No A rank for you.
Potential A rank there. Yeah, I think those changes, and then like having a test game maybe just to, or move planning that a bit, or just with a test game probably to make sure that nothing weird shows up.
The other thing I just want to mention that you would need to look for really closely in test games on this map are asymmetry-based TAs, turn advantages. So if like the contested properties, if 1 player gets to them a half turn ahead, because on mixed-base maps like this, it's not going to be perfectly symmetric which player is ahead on which front. So it's not perfectly mirrored because you have interactions between the different bases. It's more complicated on a map like this, but I don't want to get into it in too much detail. You just have to be really careful that there's not opportunities for 1 player to contest the city that the other player does. And on mixed-base maps, you usually have to look at a lot of lines. to verify that. I don't usually do that when I look at these maps. I just make sure there's nothing obvious and then ship it off to playtesters, and you brute force it basically.
Yeah. Yeah, then you start doing like these move planning lines of like, oh, what if rush this, or what if I make a recon, and you start finding those little TA setups, possible TA setups.
And I'm like, honestly, I'm not going to tell you that Global League isn't used to find those TAs. Like once the map is at a certain level that it's good enough, you ship it to Global League, and if it doesn't break after 2 weeks, then it's great. If it does break, you swap it. Like it is what it is.
I mean, also like at a certain point, there's so much testing that you can do with so few people, and then you launch it into the Global League, and you have like I don't know, hundreds or thousands of games, and that's where you're gonna find more stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just in terms of competitive integrity, it's maybe not always the best approach because you can have some people lose to some weird cheese. But the nice thing about Global League is that you can always recover your lost points.
True.
If you lose one game for cheese, then you'll get it back eventually. It's worse in tournaments. Using tournaments as test maps is rough in that regard because if you get screwed by cheese, you're just out. So.
True. Yeah, I mean, or the map creator gets burned. So
yeah,
we have a couple of maps. We have Starbright send a few maps. If you have time, maybe we can do one more.
Sure, absolutely.
So we got a DMC one. Oh, this was the base light.
Mixed base.
With a diagonal layout. Starbright send me three maps. I have to pick one.
Diagonal symmetry maps always break my brain a little bit at first. So I want it to be rotationally symmetric, and it's not.
There's this one as well. Also base light.
Mm-hmm.
That is in live play.
As your favorite feature of having pre-owned unit?
Yeah. What is this lander's purpose though? And then there's another one. It's three base map.
So I think we're obligated to choose the most scientific approach for selecting which map to look at, and that is by which name is the best.
Okay, I'm on board with that. Let's see. So, wait, I just closed. Oh, that's fine. It wasn't that map. So I have three maps. The first one is called Cranial Extrusion. The second one is called Pouring Word. Not sure what word is. And then
it means value in German, but I don't know if that's what they're going for.
And Jojo Bard. I kind of want to do this one. I don't know why.
Is this a Discord chat poll moment? Or not Discord, YouTube chat poll moment?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, chat. So,
play up the interaction. We almost completely ignore chat.
So
for now.
I had read that. So Raizo was proposing of putting that airport behind the pipe seam in the last map. I think that would just slow the airport way down because you need an artillery and stuff. And it's such a small map that
it's irrelevant.
Yeah, I feel like the map would get decided that the match. If you make an early artillery to break it, then you're gonna be behind on a tank, and just the map is so small, so like every vehicle early is gonna count. I think just having it neutral probably is enough.
I agree. You still want the airport to come into play quickly. You just don't want it to be too quick. So do you have the ability to make polls and stuff? I don't know how YouTube chat works.
Ooh, let's see. How do I do that? Start a poll. Let your viewers.
I'm only familiar with Twitch.
Oh, but I can only do 2? Oh no, I can do 3. Okay. This one is called Cranial Extrusion. So you guys are gonna have to vote which map we're gonna do. And then the third one is called Jojo Bard. Okay.
Are these all references
Did
to
that work?
things, Starlight?
So, Cranial Extrusion is this like 2-base diagonal symmetry map. Has 2 com towers, airport. Then you have Pouring Word is also base light, normal symmetry, also double com tower. There's a lander used to front switch potentially. This is standard, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think they're all standard.
And then you got Jojo Board, which is your 3-base, 1 airport map. HQ very in the middle. It's like a really small map.
So Starbright says they're not references. My map name convention is if it makes sense, can't name it that. I respect that. Good, obscure, nonsensical names.
How do you come up with those names though?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everyone has different naming conventions for their maps too. Map committee members, like Lost and Found, will always just pick some like lyric or reference. I just name them like relatively short nouns or phrases always.
But how do you come up with those nouns or phrases?
Usually for me, I just look at the map and some element of it, it's like whatever noun or phrase comes to mind. So like something that's a more like closed map or might have like locked units, I might have the word be something related to closing or locking or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very scientific. I don't put a lot of thought into it.
Usually, what I do is the classic. I think WAJ does that. He puts like names of cities or something. So I've kind of done that for a while. Or maybe just some random word pops into my mind as I'm doing the map or finish the map. I'm like, sure, I'll just do that.
Yeah, I think YWJs are all pretty much battles, right? It's
Okay.
like locations of battles.
That makes sense.
A lot of them are cities, but
Because like he made Stalingrad and
Starbright says, in fact, vert was supposed to be wet, but I typoed and couldn't be arsed to change. No, to change it.
Okay, so there's a clear winner. Let's end the poll. Whoa.
Okay, cranial extrusion.
You got 15 votes and half of them went for cranial extrusion. So cranial extrusion it is. Ooh,
Cool.
This one is gonna be spicy.
All right, well, sorry, Humida, I have to go. Have fun with that. Yeah, mixed base light is a trip because it combines all of the worst parts about infantry availability of base light and adds in that the infantry now have twice as many places they have to support for mixed base. So infantry availability is tough on these sorts of maps. And I like that this one's small and relatively closed off because that helps a lot with it. That.
You know the when I think of mixed base light, I think of Naranja.
That one's wild, yeah.
And that one uses like the 2Q symmetry. It's like your
I think did you give PL one too many infantry? I think you built an extra one.
Did I? Oh, I think you're right.
Autopilot.
Oops. Yeah.
As we tell Starbright, his map is horribly imbalanced.
SDA or
typo.
SDA. There's a lot of cities over here. So let's go for this one, I think. This airport. Okay, so clearly this is going to be the stronger. Stronger, weaker. Airports here are going to go crazy.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, an anti here is going to have so much trouble. 2, 4. Well, I guess I can wrap around both sides. But if you're like forcing like this, tank, copter, oof.
What really catches my attention on this map is that the bottom right quadrant, because in diagonal symmetry, the map is broken neatly into quadrants, right? You're going to have, especially on a mixed space like this, you're going to have 4 different fronts, and 2 of them are symmetric and 2 of them are not. So the bottom right and the top left front are unique, and then the bottom left and top right front are mirrored, right? So the bottom right front, like this is what you have to think about these maps. The bottom right front needs to have one player who's ahead on it, naturally, and the top left is going to have a different player ahead on it. If one of those fronts is much more important than the other, then it's going to be turn advantage. So when I look at this map, bottom right has a pair of contested cities, city on the diagonal, and contested towers. Well, semi-contested towers. They're at least contestable. So in the bottom right front.
Oh, these, yeah.
So you have like those 2 cities that are on mirroring on the diagonal and the one that's on the diagonal. Those are going to be really contested. Then you have the towers. So that's a lot of value in that bottom right front. And player 2, sorry, is the one who's ahead on that, right? Purple Lightning's up. So they're going to have the advantage in that front. If you look at the top left, that's the front that Green Earth is ahead on, the mirrored front. But the value on that, nothing in comparison. There's 1 city, right?
Yeah, because these 2 are not contested. So with this one, and this one, I guess, if you want to.
Oh, true. There's 2. Okay. But there's no towers. It's a lot harder to fight over things in that corner. So I think Green Earth's advantage in the top left is significantly less valuable than Purple Lightning's in the bottom right. I'd be really worried about TA as a result of that.
Yeah, I think
my advice,
especially this area.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think this area is like a little bit too much, not like the 2 comp towers, and they're both just out of range of a tank. And you can somewhat like loop around like this and try to like double up from both sides.
Right.
So maybe the
advice
comp towers could go somewhere else.
As a rule of thumb on maps like these is to make the most contested areas of the map the ones that are mirrored perfectly. Like the fronts where the HQs are, those are the ones that you want to make more contested. And you want the fronts that are not mirrored perfectly to just be a little less valuable overall, so that you don't have any imbalances being amplified.
So
I mean, you can obviously break that rule. Like I think Caustic Finale breaks that rule a little bit.
I was just thinking about that map, yeah. But I think actually Caustic Finale follows that rule, right? Because the
you're right. It does.
The diagonal, like the top right of Caustic Finale.
Do you want to bring it up really quick?
Yeah, it's worth because let's see if it's in the global league. Like it's worth in a positional sense, but it's not. It's no longer. Just look it up. But it doesn't have like property. Oh, I guess it has 1. That's it.
Oh, they're not really contested, right? Look at all the clones.
Yeah. Okay.
So in this case, the bottom left with the 2 towers and the top right are the 2 that are the not mirrored fronts.
Yeah, and these have actually cities that are contested and they kind of like flip over time.
Right.
And over here, you only have this 1 city and this 1 city. You don't really fight over these.
See, and that's when I said Caustic Finale doesn't follow it. I was thinking of those central contested cities. But even then, it's pretty similar in terms of their value to each other.
Yeah, it's funny that these are also contested. I guess you could say something about these.
Okay.
So,
well, yeah, I mean, you should be careful about copying Caustic Finale for too many things because it breaks a lot of rules. But I think the top right and the bottom left corners are really good examples of what I was talking about. You don't want those, like you don't want them to be super, super valuable or contestable, because then one player is going to have an advantage.
I mean, I think that's a very interesting rule of thumb then. Like if you're using this symmetry to do that, like where the line falls on the symmetry, make it not very valuable, but the other ones, yeah. So you still have that little 2Q kind of dynamic, but you have, I don't know, this other design that some people like for some reason.
And my advice is you don't always have to follow rules of thumb like, but if you're breaking it, make sure you know why you're breaking it and understand how you have to change the rest of the map to make up for that. A lot of people break rules, like they'll copy a map that breaks rules and they won't really understand why the rule was broken or how it was. And then it's almost never going to work. You have to get very lucky to break a rule unintentionally, successfully.
This is a spicy map.
Yeah.
This position, look, which is everything.
Yeah, that's also the problem with small maps like this. It's like you can harass and the other player can't necessarily counter everything immediately, right? Like deciding where to build the first vehicle as player 2 when player 1 can send their vehicle either direction can be tough. This map, I think it actually works because the reinforced distances are so small that you can just build a tank and protect everything within one turn, more or less. But in general, it's tough on mixed base maps.
How do you feel about this position? Being able to just put a tank here and literally protect both fronts. Would you try to avoid having that? Like maybe make this, I don't know, another forest or something like that to avoid such an easy position?
Definitely better if you have to make a choice. You know, so like the initial position of the tank, you have to commit it at least partially towards one or the other. So I do agree with you. It'd be nice if the terrain naturally pushed the tank one way or another.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to go the other way, you have to sacrifice something, either position or a threat or whatever.
So like say you have a forest here, then you can, I mean, you can still sit here, right? And it will still cover, but at least it wouldn't reach this city right here.
What if you just put a mountain there?
Or a mountain, yeah. 2, 4, 6. It will still cover this guy.
I think I would actually prefer a mountain because you don't want to put too much really heavy terrain right near the base if the base is weaker, because it might make it too strong, like too hard to attack into. That's the strong base though.
Yeah, this is
so heavy terrain base won't matter other than for determining unit routes. So you can do that.
Okay, so that's probably something to change.
Because the big thing there, if that unit sits on the city, that tank sits on the city, and there's a mountain directly to the right of it, now it can no longer harass the far right corner city.
Yeah.
Exactly. It can no longer reach. So like you're sacrificing something to put it there. Similarly, if you move the tank the other direction, it can no longer cover the infantry that's capturing to the left. So you've split those fronts. It can still transition across. It just takes an extra turn.
Yeah, you have to decide whether you want to cover this and attack this, or you want to cover this guy right here.
Yeah. And I think that's generally on really small maps like this, that's a good idea.
You could also attack here. Okay, let's do a few more turns to get this. I mean, I guess you go for this. There's that tank. Would you go for that one? Yeah, this is like maybe too much on this little symmetry line.
It's way too much. It's way too much. Because the problem here is that first player to get there has a huge initiative, right? They can decide whether to contest, whatever else. The only nice thing, what helps this a little bit, is that the player who has the advantage there can't build the first vehicle. Like if that was the side that Green Earth had the advantage on and they got the first vehicle, then that's way too strong. But at least in this case, Green Earth gets the first vehicle in that area, even if their infantry is half a turn. So it balances it just a little bit, but
I didn't understand.
Better than it could be. Still not good.
I didn't understand the concept that you were just saying. So that one player's ahead, but what's...
So on the bottom right corner, Purple Lightning will get the first infantry, right? They're capturing that center city the first. They're capturing the next city first. So they're ahead on infantry on that corner.
Okay.
But the way the funding curve works out, Green Earth gets the first vehicle. So their tank will arrive in that area first.
Right.
So it would be significantly worse if Purple Lightning was able to build the first tank and send it into that area. So then they're ahead on the infantry and
the
ahead on the
vehicle.
tank in the most important area of the map.
Right.
That would be really bad for TA. As it is, it's still kind of bad, but it's better than it could.
Yeah, okay, so then I think this is probably good enough because now it's just going to spiral out of control. The possibilities are endless here. Like this is going to be neutral forever, probably.
That's a good map name, honestly. Spiral out of control.
Spiral out of control.
You just need a spiral on the map somewhere.
I mean, it almost is like a cranial extrusion. I'm not sure what extrusion means, but it does definitely feel like...
Yeah, your brain is popping out of your head.
Yeah. So changes, the little split here, probably with terrain, and then just the value from these two. So I mean, I guess this part is fine. I think this area is probably definitely fine. This one would probably be worth like reconsidering. The comm towers. I guess if you really want to have two comm towers, I think the good rule of thumb is always to have one safe and then the second one be more contested. So like say in that case, you can have one, I don't know, here or something, more like safer, or here, and then you can have this one that's more contested. And then these you just remove them. You have the city, and maybe get rid of these as well. This feels like a bit too much now. So if you get rid of the comm towers, you need to get rid of these.
I think it's too many properties, but it's also... I don't have a strong opinion. Maybe you have a feeling. Do you prefer on maps like this that when the contested properties are right on the diagonal, or do you prefer the pair of properties adjacent to the diagonal? Like, just for an example, the one that the Green Earth Infantry is sitting on, that and the Purple Lightning City, that's a pair of adjacent properties, whereas the one directly to the left of that on the diagonal is perfectly symmetric.
I wanted to look at the map, the Caustic Finale clone by Pinwheel. Where is it? Mariner Cup. City.
Oh, Secret Ways.
Yeah.
Because whenever I'm making a diagonally symmetric map, I can't decide if I like having them. Yeah, this one's not diag. Oh, it is diag.
It goes like this. So
pin.
Personally, I'm not a big fan of the line of symmetry and the fighting that takes place there, because it's such a TA thing. I remember this one had a TA where player 2 was a little bit favored, especially in this area. Actually, in this area and this area, I think.
I think it works as long as you have... So in this map, once again, I always think of the quadrants. The bottom left and the top right are the non-mirrored quadrants, right? So in the bottom left, you have one property on the line of symmetry, contestable. On the top right, you also have one, more central, but yeah, exactly. And then so as long as there's one on each, and one player can capture one of them more safely or have an advantage to capturing one, then I think it works out. Like Caustic Finale is the same way.
I remember these being a little bit of an issue, maybe. It's the little pair that you were saying. So I guess this map only has one.
The reason those are kind of rough, so the timing matters, right? Like if you think about this one, that first infantry for Blue Moon is going to go directly to the right and capture that city.
Well, it's going to go here first.
Well, okay. I kind of went, sorry.
Come on, Walker, basic.
First. You don't base skip? Weak.
I mean, that's more than a base skip.
But either way, it'll go to that city.
Yeah.
And then it'll move 3 spaces, either, like if it was going for that pair of cities, it could move to the road right next to the city, right? And now it's in a position where it can actually capture either city. Right. So this is a problem, or more of a problem. It's more likely a problem than if, let's imagine that the city was right under the infra. That would be more likely to be less problematic, yeah. Or yeah, the way this map is structured doesn't work out that well. But imagine if they were still diagonal to each other, but spaced so that the infantry could capture. I think that would tend to work out better because you're not able to limit the other infantry's movement options with your own. Because like if the Blue Moon infantry is positioned right there, the Orange Star infantry can't occupy the mirrored tile in front of their own city.
Yeah,
so it pushes them back a little, and that gives the Blue Moon infantry a little bit of an advantage. So like in situations like that, based on the timing of the infantry and the placement of the cities, I think this sort of thing can create some small problems.
There was also this one right here, this chain right here. Because this area is Blue Moon is ahead now because they start with the infantry. There was that thing, and then there's also this city right here. And because you cap the city, like you send your first one goes here, second one goes there, and then your third one goes like down, and you're gonna go for this city probably.
Right.
And Blue One is gonna be capturing this, red, blue finishes, and then like blue can just start capturing. Right. And you're already gonna have a tank or something, and it's like really rough to interrupt here.
And it wouldn't be such a problem if that was mirrored in the other corner as well. In the other corner, though, that's not really the case, right?
Or here.
Mm-hmm. And the other important point is that corner is much less, like if you win that corner completely, like let's say you just have dominance in that corner, what are you going to do with it? Your units are all stuck in a corner behind a mountain. Like you can't do anything with them in that area.
Yeah, you can't.
If you win the opposite side, that quadrant, you have access to the towers. You can front switch to another front quickly. Like you can threaten the bases. So it's another example where, not just the funding has to be relatively symmetric in those corners. You also want the positional advantages to be relatively symmetric.
Yeah, it definitely felt like this whole donut area was like the most important, like very tank friendly front switching, where you can go from contesting the com towers, these cities. You can go round and round, and then you have like little mini games in the match of like this, and then this one city.
Right. And I guess just to be clear, some people are mentioning in the chat that the map played out pretty well.
Yeah, it did.
Definitely is an interesting and dynamic map. Like mixed base can fix just naturally, and making the map larger, it can naturally fix a lot of small imbalances because people's play isn't going to necessarily be perfect. I'm kind of split. This map to me is on the border of A rank and B rank. I don't know if the imbalances are large enough that it should be B rank, but just talking about like what you should be striving for with the design, I think these are the sort of things you need to look at. And if you can minimize them while still making the map unique, it's really good to do so. What were you going to say, Kamita?
Oh, I forgot.
Sorry, cut you off.
I have no idea.
They were talking about the map, how the map plays well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I thought the map does play well. As I was saying, there's like a lot of little things, a lot of little scenarios that are happening in the match, and I think that's really interesting. I also like the double base, the double two base setup, I guess. You have two base, just like Caustic Finale. So you don't have the stronger, weak, just like the one base that gets flipped. There's no flipping of any base here. You're just more so fighting for position and cities and com towers. And if you want to end the game, then you can probably just go here, attack the HQ.
The strong side, weak side dynamic is purely based on position advantages, right? Not based on unit count or unit value.
Exactly. And how much you invest, like how many tanks are you making on one of these setups or not, stuff like that. And just making really good use of the terrain with artilleries and stuff. I thought it was really cool. Like it was I know it looks like Caustic Finale. It did not play like Caustic Finale. So I thought that was very interesting. The fact that this is like a highway of vehicles as well was very interesting.
If you do that sort of setup where you don't really have a defined strong and weak side on a non-mixed base map, you have to be really, really careful because it'll lead to stalls usually because there's not any natural place to attack or defend.
Yeah.
In mixed base, you can get away with it because there's so many options for how you distribute your units and places that you can attack. And like there's just more targets, more viable targets. So it works in mixed base to do this sort of setup. I don't really like setups like this in standard where it's like one base, like a base light map, for example, where it's, or sorry, on a rotationally symmetric map, where it's like one base versus one base on each side. Then if there's not a natural strength, it can just stall really quickly.
Yeah, like horizontal symmetry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really bad.
What if you have this symmetry in fog? I don't know. You have it.
Mixed base and fog is already rough, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of mixed base fog. But Starbright said that the map was just changed. Wait, why is the game being played labeled as Civilization? Wait, does that show up on YouTube or what? That'd be really funny. Is it showing up on YouTube like that?
Yeah, it does show Civilization.
No way. I have no
Did it
idea
just
how
like
to change
assign
it.
a random strategy game for us?
So the map was just changed. Whoa, okay. So Cranial Extrusion got a... I don't know. I was trying to come up with a joke, but I couldn't. A hotfix. Okay, so there's
I think
some here removed.
this is a lot closer to balanced, I think. And we would have to, run through it again. But I like the look of this a lot better at first glance. Like you have to figure out if the capture routes create interesting dynamics and if the terrain is interesting for supporting, defending, whatever. But I think just the basic layout for this has a lot higher chance for success, and then you can pencil in the details. Like that's kind of how I think about maps. I don't know how other people do it, but if the base structure of the map, like the archetype, is kind of broken, then the details almost don't matter. So you have to really nail down the base archetype with general principles, and then you work out the details to make the map interesting.
Yeah, I think this would naturally push the fight more over here.
Which is good in my opinion.
You can get a little standoff here on the mountains. Possibly, every now and then I want to try to capture, interrupt. But that'll be it.
Right.
And that can be cool.
So at this point, like the important balancing consideration is you don't want the corner, the bottom right and the top left to be so invaluable or non-valuable that nothing happens, right? You don't want it to be a no-brainer just to stream units into the other quadrants. So like there's some balance there, but that's where playtesting really comes in.
The only other thing that I was just thinking is that usually in mixed base you have these like areas where you can join your armies, no? And I'm having a hard time finding one here, because it would be maybe this or green or maybe here, but I feel like these areas are not really like safe.
It's so hard with base light maps, because the same route that you would use to connect two of your bases are the same tiles where your opponent needs to connect theirs.
Yeah.
Right? So like
unless you like open up the middle, but
that causes other problems.
That can create other problems, yeah. So it would be like a one base against one base here fight. Like I guess every base would be like a little bit invested in one side and the other.
I think for base light mixed base, it's okay to do it like this. You still have 4 fronts and only 2 bases. So your units are going to get kind of spread out.
Yeah, a lot.
And you have the airports to create the strong, weak dynamic. So I think it works. You don't need to worry about like painting bases like you would in another mixed base map.
Yeah, I think it looks better.
It would be interesting to see a mixed base light map where you could connect your bases though. I don't really know what that would look like. I'd have to think about it more, but that'd be kind of neat.
So base light, mixed base, where you can connect?
You'd have to have some weird like twisting terrain so that units go different directions.
So what about Naranja?
Yeah, that might be actually.
Because maybe it's a thing with
Good
symmetry.
example.
There. So you can somewhat join your armies, like this way with green.
Right, because this map can kind of unmix, right?
Yeah.
Like if you connect your bases, then it unmixes. But if you don't connect your bases, then it's mixed.
Yeah, the worst thing is that if you base trade, it becomes a stall hell.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think it's interesting because all of this terrain over here, it makes it so that this base, it will probably want to come out here and like, I don't know, contest these stuff or whatever. But it doesn't have the resources to do that sustainably when this starts to move up and just like completely flood this area. And then it's like, okay, this base is just gonna go right back over here and try to defend over here. Well, this base can go like this, and then you might join. Maybe you want to go and support your one base. Maybe you try to siege this base.
This map, honestly, the way this map is laid out is super, super cool. It's another example of one that breaks so many rules, and it works because the way that they broke the rules complements itself really well. Like you were talking about having to decide if you want to kind of swing forward to attack the lone base or defend. But like if you attack in one place on this map, you're missing out on pressure somewhere else. So like if you really focus on attacking the opponent base, well, you've got properties like those cities and the port down at the bottom, right? That if you abandon that area, then they could get an advantage there. Or you can attack the airports that are wide, or, like there's just a lot of different ways that you can create a win condition. And if you pursue one win condition, then you might leave your opponent open to attack a different way. So it's really cool in that regard. I like that from the base, if you send a unit one direction, it's very hard to change that from the middle base.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that makes it work.
Yeah, this base is so overwhelmed with options. And like whatever you send here, it's unsustainable.
Can't reverse it. Yeah, exactly. It's a cool map.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll be honest that I was not a Naranja believer the first time I saw it. And even after the first time I played it, I was like, I don't know about this map. But then after enough MBO games on it, I'm a believer. It's a good map.
Did it have any changes? It's just
not as far as I know.
Does his user?
What's it ranked right now? Is it?
Oh, it's B rank. Why is it B rank?
It's in B rank. Yeah, it should probably be an A rank.
Should I change it right now?
I don't mind.
Okay.
I think it's a great map. It's pretty proven in competitive play. Like to me, you could almost make a case to S rank it.
Would you make it live play, or it's too complicated for live play? I feel like you could make it live play. There's only 2 bases, but
all of the interactions with the pre-owned units, that would be why I maybe wouldn't use it for live play. I don't have a strong opinion on that though. Like I don't know what's too sharp versus fun. Like I'd be interested in getting user feedback on that, like from other players if they enjoy playing on maps like this. For live player, if it's just too much of a mess.
It's your call.
I don't even play Live League, so it's not going to affect me.
I guess we can throw it in the MC chat or something and see what people say, but
yeah,
I'll mark it as A rank.
I think it's no brainer to be an A rank. Like I said, I think you could honestly justify S rank almost. It's had 2 very successful runs in tournaments.
Yeah, true.
With really interesting games. Like it's just such a unique map. There's not another map like it.
Yeah. We need more. Where is this Squidward Tartellini? Oh, it has been gone for like almost a year.
Yeah. I mean, he makes some really cool maps. A lot of them don't work, but all of them are really unique.
Yeah, there was another one, the first one of the second America Cup, I think.
Mm-hmm.
This one.
Yeah, Muscular Vendetta.
Oof. Yeah, this one was insane.
Yeah, and this one didn't work as well as Naranja, but it's still an interesting map.
What was the concerning part about this map?
I just think there's a lot of interactions that are a little bit concerning for turn advantage, like especially because of the central airports and the central labs. Yeah, it's mostly the airport interactions that I thought were kind of suspect here. Like, I'm not convinced that this map doesn't have turn advantage. If you like threw it in Global League, I think it would break quick.
I mean, you could throw it in globally.
I'm not going to be responsible for that.
The only thing about this map that I remember, it was like it exacerbated the mixed base like mess of like you just cannot cover everything. Like you are going to get damaged somewhere. So it kind of becomes a damage control map in my opinion in how you're playing it. There's recons everywhere, you send tanks, copters, and it's like there's just no way you can cover everything, and so you're forced to do damage and then kind of damage control what you can save. It's very strange.
It's a good way of describing it. Yeah, I agree with you.
There's recon TA. Oh, okay. So apparently there's recon TA. Not sure where.
Yeah, and that's where, like, I don't know. A map like this, even if it has recon TA in one area, can still work. Because to your point, like, even if you get screwed in one corner, you can maybe just ignore that and get an advantage somewhere else, right? Like, take advantage of the fact that your opponent built a recon, and instead of mirroring it, just get an earlier tank somewhere else that they can't counter.
Yeah.
Like, it could potentially work, but there's just, this map has so many opportunities for interactions like that, where one player can get an advantage that the other player can't mirror, that I don't know. I feel like something has to be broken.
I think the recon TA was probably something to do with these airports. There was something very problematic about these. That you could like interrupt it and something like that, block it.
I can see that.
Oh, we have Voice of Akasha in chat. Hey, Voice of Akasha. Recon reaching airport in 2 turns is rough.
Yeah, from the side base.
From here over here. So you do.
Yeah,
2,
I can see that.
5, 7. 1, 2, 3.
Even worse, it can sit on it.
Yeah, I can step on it with 8 moves. Choke.
Just mech spam. Easy.
Yeah, I mean, just not getting the airport is like a huge deal because you don't get it and then the other one does. And
yeah, and that center airport's so strong.
Yeah, it is. Maybe you could make an argument for like removing this airport, just making it a city or something.
Then it wouldn't be a Squidward Tortellini map, though.
True. You need at least 2 airports for it to be a Squidward Tortellini.
You need at least one thing that should be broken, absolutely broken. And then it's a Squidward Tortellini map.
Sam Designed Crux asked, will you review maps submitted by viewers on these streams? Yeah. All the maps we reviewed were all user submitted. We
just got sidetracked.
Yeah, we were supposed to do like DMC and just new maps as well. But we just been doing maps that were submitted. You can send them to me via DM in Discord. You can send them to Walker as well if you want to. You can just send the message wherever, and yeah, we'll take a look. I think this will probably be it for me though regarding for this stream. I think we've looked at enough maps. Yeah,
I think we saw some good ones, and we did review at least 2 DMC maps. So I think mission accomplished.
We did, yeah. I think we looked at pretty good maps too. There was a lot of potential. The one from Daddy Maxac, I think the one from Starbright that we just saw as well. We'd have to just like play test it a lot, but that could be one fun for live play as well. I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. Base light maps, I think, are generally interesting for live play just because you don't have to worry about flicking so many units.
Yeah.
But they're harder to balance.
Then we had the one from Dr. Nasty, the High Fund Live base light. We saw a lot of base light today. Wow.
It's true.
And then there was one from Soul for Rent. Which one was that, man? I forget.
That was the infantry locked one.
True.
Yeah. The T-copters.
That one was fun. I like that concept. I like how the map looks as well, and like the strange dynamic that it forces of like mechcopter anti-artillery. But with a little bit of shifting a little bit of stuff, I think it could work. It's going
I
to be
think so
tricky
too.
though.
I like that a lot of the maps we looked at have kind of innovative or unique concepts, and trying to figure out how to make those work, I think is one of the most interesting aspects of map design for me personally.
True. I think it's very easy to start on a gimmick and then it's like it's broken, it doesn't work. So it's like a very hard, a very fine line, that you have to be walking to try to make that gimmick work.
What usually happens to me is I'll start with a relatively simple gimmick, and then I'll realize as I'm working on it that it doesn't quite work, but I could make it work if I add a second aspect of the gimmick. And then you just follow that train, and eventually you end up with a map that has like 10 competing gimmicks. And then it's just like, oh, what have I done? And then I usually just scrap it and simplify it. But it's so easy to follow that.
True. Yeah, it's like, you're like, because also if usually you start a map and you're thinking about something weird to try to do, because you're not just gonna do a basic stale map. But yeah, it's definitely hard to balance that. I was thinking, I don't know why, I was thinking, as you were saying that, I was thinking of Brush with Death. Like, what kind of gimmicks were you thinking there?
Honestly, that map, my only goal was broken COs and pipe runners viable. That was the only goal, and then it just turned into a monster, and somehow it worked, and it's still here.
And it's S ranked.
That doesn't usually happen. Usually, it turns into a monster, and it's terrible.
I mean, do you think
what happens?
Pipe runners are viable?
No, not at all. Not even a little. It was a failure for broken COs, and it was a failure for pipe runners, which are the only two things I wanted it to do. But then it actually worked somehow as a map. So
there's also the little island-based gimmick.
Yeah, it's another one. Like that shouldn't work. Like it just breaks rules. It shouldn't be. Yeah, I don't know why it works.
I mean, I'm not sure if there's another map like this one, honestly. But it's such a forced 2 base, 1 base interaction. Well, it's like a 2 base, 1 airport, I guess, at a certain point.
Yeah. It's like at its heart, it's a very basic map that isn't a good archetype. Like, it's a forced base trade that when the bases trade should just stalemate.
Yeah.
But it somehow works out.
I mean, it does stalemate. Usually matches end before the base trade. Like someone does the base trade and the other one doesn't. GG.
Right.
I think it's more of like the whole positional play and tactics and stuff like that, balancing the composition, and then one will somehow get the upper hand and is able to not only have a good attack but defend also well. It's just like that. It's just like a good attack, a good turn or two, and that just sets the match.
Yep. But like, I don't think this map would work that well. Like, imagine if you just kept the core islands, the 2v1, and you got rid of the gimmick with the airport, you got rid of the side islands, you just removed all of that other stuff. Would it still work? I don't know. I feel like the distractions from the other stuff are what gives it that zest that allows the main gimmick to work, or the main point to work.
Well, I think this doesn't do anything. No, like it's just a few properties. Because I'm sure your intention was to like make people think, okay, let's make black balls and let's try to harass the space or a lander or something, but you're never going to do that. And this basis just doesn't do anything. But this does. The missile in the airport does definitely play a big role, especially in nerfing Max Walker.
Yeah, I'm a confirmed Max hater.
Really?
Not really, but a lot of my maps do that. Like there's that other one, Darkest Hour, that was used in MBO, where the missile is guarding an airport and is also sitting on a comm tower.
Oh yeah.
If you were Max, the airport can't actually the missile can't lock the airport.
Is Max tier 4 there or something like?
Luckily, no one used that tier for tournaments, but Max would be very sad. I have a lot of maps like that. Or be very sad.
I guess you still have Eagle, Olaf, and Sammy in that case.
Yeah. Anyway, what happens to me a lot, just kind of go back to what we were mentioning before you brought this up, is I'll have some like gimmick or like I consider them like tools. So I'll use like some aspect of a map and I'll use it on like 3 maps in a row. And then because I'm thinking about it, it just ends up in all of my maps, even if it should or not. Like even if it's not good for the map, it's just on my brain. So I put it in a map. That happens to me a lot. And then I go back like 6 months or a year later and I look at the maps with fresh eyes and I'm like, why did I put this in here? It's not even good. And then I make edits.
Yeah, I think it also happens that you're like, you want to do a gimmick and you do it in a map and then you're not very convinced, so you do it, the same gimmick again, and then you have like 3 or 4 maps that are very similar because they're all around the same gimmick. It's very common.
Yeah. That Lost and Found struggles with that in particular.
But Lost and Found makes like a ton
account.
of maps.
It's like an account worth of one idea, and maybe 3 of them actually work.
I was surprised to see a lot of Lost and Found maps getting like A ranked recently. Well, that you were reviewing. There's a lot of them in I play. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lost and Found makes. That's the thing. Like his approach is quality via quantity. So if you make 1,000 maps and someone takes the time to actually figure out if they work, some of them are going to work. And as he got better and better at being consistent with following general principles so that his maps do work, then yeah, I think he's going to end up with a lot of A ranks. I'm pretty happy with a lot of his maps.
Yeah.
The bad thing is you have to wade through literal oceans of mediocre to bad maps. It takes so long.
Well, thanks, Self-Rent. Thank you so much. Says, thanks you too for all the hard map committee work. We all learned a bunch. Honestly, Walker does like 90% of the map committee work. Should all
I
go
wouldn't
to
say
Walker.
that. I've been doing categorizing work, but that's a small part.
You do so much. Like I looked at the numbers.
Really good though. I don't want to downplay anyone else's effort because like giving feedback in the design maps channel, I think is super, super helpful for keeping people like interested in mapping. And the competitive aspects, like doing all the play testing and figuring out global league map settings and all that. Like, I'm glad that we have a map committee who handles all that other stuff. And then I can just do my little amount categorizing the backlog when I have some time.
Yeah, I feel like we have a team that everyone does like different parts, no? Different aspects.
Yep, everyone's skill set is just a little bit different, so people focus on what they're good at. I think it works really well. I'm very happy to have a map committee with active members, like more than one active member, because for years and years, it was like just me by myself, or it was just Maury by himself, or just Dredge. Like, there's a long periods of time in AWBW where being a map committee was a sad, lonely experience.
Was there not that many members? Like, it was just 3 people?
There were fewer people, but also just people were inactive all the time. Like we still have that today, right? Like at any given time, some people are inactive and some aren't. But now we have enough active people that it's like a team and not just one person talking to themselves.
I love that Voice of Akasha, if you're still here, he was inactive for a while and then he like jumped in like it was like a month ago and dropped a gem or something. I was like, or I think saved like some big problem that was being done. And I was like, okay, I've done the work for the year.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious.
Voice of Akasha, he's like the opposite of Lost and Found, right? So like he comes by, like just every so often, just drops like a nugget, plays a couple games.
He goes to the mountains, meditates on map design for a year, comes back and comes out with something
like we
new.
just get little tastes, and every time we're left wanting more, and then he disappears for a few months, and then he comes back and gives us just a taste.
The big brain Voice of Akasha of maps, it's insane. The new things that he's been saying too, I think, are also super worth considering, just for innovating as well. So that's super cool. I'm super excited about stuff that's gonna come.
I agree. He's still here.
I've been inactive for way longer than active.
Yeah, amen. Me too, honestly, except not recently. Been active for a while recently.
Yeah, anyways.
But it's a fun time.
Yeah.
Fun time to be in the community.
True. And we should do this like every once in a while.
Hey, I'm good for once a month if you are. I
Yeah.
can swing it.
I think once a month is probably good. Well, last one was, what was it, a month ago?
Just about, maybe a little bit more.
Okay.
Like a month and a half.
So we'll see. May is a little bit of a complicated month for me, but we can definitely schedule something for May. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun doing this, having you here, and hope you guys had a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for setting it up and taking care of all the technical difficulties and being patient with my crappy internet.
Oof. That internet. It was only today though. Last time it was working fine.
Yeah. So hopefully next time fine as well. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye. Well, guys, hope you enjoyed the stream. Walker has left. We weren't able to cover that many maps, but we did like 4 or 5 maps. So I think that was cool. And if you have other maps, you can just send them to me. I'll try to make a list for the next time, which it will be like in a month or something from now. I'll try to give a heads up also on the next stream. Hope you guys are doing well. Oh, that's awesome. It's a great time to be an Advanced Wars player. It is. This is probably like the best time. Thanks, remember to blame MC, guys. Hey, come on, Talos. That's me. I'm an MC now. Could only catch the end. Oh, that's fine. So it's gonna be like a video, so you can. That's the cool thing about YouTube. You stream on YouTube and they automatically make the video available, so you can watch it whenever you want. Hey, Happy Warriors. I'm glad you guys liked it. Anyways, I'm gonna have to call it. This was a lot of fun. My brain is a bit fried from so much map analysis and streaming at the same time. Definitely takes a toll, I gotta say. But I know sometimes I forget about looking at the chat, so I apologize about that, but I have to keep that in mind a little bit. And I'm also using a new software. I'm using OBS. Last time I was using Streamlabs, so I had to like set up everything. So hopefully everything worked pretty well. I think it kind of did. Nothing really broke or everything except Walker's friggin' internet. But besides that, everything I think was pretty smooth. Also the music, I'm not sure if you can hear the music, but I'll have to play a little with the faders with that as well. And yeah, hope you guys have a great rest of the day, rest of the night, and I will see you next time. There's a video coming out on Monday, and I hope you like the podcast as well with Go7. So that one is also going to be like once a month. So stay tuned for next episode next month. Anyways, have a good one, guys. Bye bye.